I make creators change their pace. I dust faves and shake off what majors play. Look, y'all not even good bad. Y'all all suck at sucking like Kim K and that Ray J tape. Your fame's a waste. I can't even.
Yo, 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 yo. Mic check 1 2. What's good? I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was blasting fucking music.
You're all good. You're all good. What was you blasting though?
Hear this? Hold on. I don't know if there's gonna be feedback.
Damn, it's cutting out. No.
Who's good for the sky? Keep you praising, oh God. This drop, they be eating up. Ain't no piece in the pie. Say right. I don't know if there's feedback.
Bruh, nah, there wasn't feedback. It was just hating. It was yeah, it sounded crazy. It just was cutting in and out. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. We're live on the Meanwhile on Earth podcast. We got Nino Bless. Yeah, I was about to say there it is. But yeah, man, I gave you like an amazing intro, you know what I mean? Wanted to make sure the boy was right. What's good with you, man? Yeah, no, it wasn't. Wait, you're not tuned in? You're not tuned into your own? I was playing videos. I was on some dick rider shit for sure.
That's crazy. That's good. I need fans. I appreciate
that. For sure, man. Nah, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. You know, I feel like it's been a long time coming, for sure.
Yeah. We've already done like 10 podcasts. They just haven't been recorded.
Damn near every one of our conversations is like 3 podcasts. So makes sense. Speaking of, why don't you have a podcast? I feel like you would have an amazing podcast, and everyone's got one. You're way more qualified than 84% of people.
Tell you a secret. My partner Nix, who's Cambada, shout out to Cambada, his business partner right now. I'm the first rapper to ever have a podcast ever. I did like 3 or 4 of them before this shit was even big, and then I just never stuck with it. But I'll probably start getting into it. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's like it's hard for me to compartmentalize and manage, because podcasting to me, you got to be mad consistent.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Joe Budden can't rap and podcast clearly, because he just started fucking doing the podcast, and he's like, all right, I can't do this and rap. And Joe Budden's one of the most rapping motherfuckers I ever met. So for me,
and podcasting motherfuckers ever too.
Yeah,
involved, you know what I mean, as far as social media and blog. Like he's been one of the first at a lot of that, you know what I mean, like YouTube and blogs and all these crazy shit before that was big, you know.
Oh, facts, yeah. And it's just hard to juggle, man. So for me, I was like, I'm gonna finish my music endeavors and get to a point where I'm like, all right, cool, I think I can manage this, and then I'll start getting it. So it's something that you can look at, that I'll do a little bit later.
Like load up the chamber, get all the content shot, get it, and be like, okay, as I'm rolling this out, that's smart. That's dope.
100%, yeah.
At True Exact Radio and chat said Nino's podcast episodes would be 9 hours long each. Shit, yo, there's a unicorn of a podcast we did with Lush One. He was like the first, you know, because we did like, I don't know, like between 7 and 10 Meanwhile on Earth on Ruin Your Day, with a lot of different guests from Organic, Thesaurus, Frack, Hollow, B Dot, Blimes and Gab. No, I'm sure there's others I can't remember, but we did a good handful of them. and then went on hiatus as well. And then, you know, coming back and now that I'm on Twitch and doing it live with the live stream and then putting it out, the first one I did was with Lush, and I fucked it up. I botched it. And it's like, it's a thing where if you were there, you were there. Otherwise.
You was telling me it was like a great 3 hour or 4 hour.
Yeah, no, that was my point. Yeah, that was my point. It was like more than 4 hours of of a conversation on accident.
And that's why I'm not podcasting. I don't want to make the mistakes you make. So I'm gonna learn.
Take all the notes.
Yeah, you all the errors you make, all the fucked up shit that everybody else do, and then I'll be like, okay, let me figure out a way to have a growth mindset with this. But nah, like I can't even imagine doing something and having a 4 hour convo and losing it. That shit would fucking, you're a better man than me. That shit would have irritated me. But Lush, the thing is with Lush is you can recap that magic with him.
Yeah.
Like you can reignite that magic. There's probably like 5 to 10 people that you could do that another 4 hours with him and be like, oh, this is better than the first 4 hours we did. You won't find another 5 people like that. So like Lush is somebody you could just recap.
I was just about to say he's such hip hop and battle rap encyclopedia and just there's so much to talk about with him, from his personal story to everything he's been involved with and touched and seen behind the scenes, that it's like if it might have been someone else, I might have been a little more hurt. I was like, damn, it really sucks because we really had a dope conversation about a lot of shit, even outside of music and hip hop, you know what I mean? But I can have him on a million times and have all be 4 hour podcasts. So I'm like, it's cool.
Lush is the kind of guy that'll tell you the socks dudes were wearing when they battled. Like, it's just like, dude, why do you know this shit? You know what I mean? Like what the fuck are you talking about?
Low key though, behind the scenes, like you be dropping like what? Oh, instead, Briz actually was gonna say this, or you know what I mean?
Me?
Yeah. You low key behind the scenes have hella info that I'm like, damn, I didn't, actually, Pat Stay was gonna wear floaties during his battle with Tay Rock, but like you be hella knowing shit behind the scenes with a lot of battlers and shit too. You're definitely.
Yeah, a lot of them run their shit by me, so like I'll know the ideas and then like I'll kind of like be like, oh, that's dope or whatever, and yada yada yada, and then. So when the battle happens and they don't, as you know, not everybody's so refined. Some guys just go in there and they know what they want to do, but then they're not sure what they're going to do the week of. You know what I mean? Like Hollow's like that. Hollow's third verse clips was not, so like my memory also, I have like that. I don't have Thesaurus's memory, but my memory is really good as far as I got. Yeah. Because, the whole, we'll get into it. But like, I can kind of remember like how ideas came to be and so on and so forth. I mean, shit, maybe we'll get into it with you because I know a lot of your thought process and how you get into it and just the thinking that goes in it. So like my recall is crazy, like real sick. We were just talking and I mean, we're kind of like jumping into this combo, but fuck it. That's how we do anyway. Yeah. One time real sick was preparing for a battle and I was like, yo, Il Mac, when he was preparing for this guy, kind of had this and it helps a guy like real sick. Cause he's like, oh, if Il Mac went through this, cool, like, because he's looked up to, he was watching all you guys from the outside in, and he's like, okay, cool. So this is a familiar place to be in. So it's like, that's how, the experience of like whatever the relationship I have with some of you guys can help a guy like that I'm cool with now. You know what I mean?
Nah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely like there's a while where I don't remember who said it, if it was like maybe Thesaurus said it and I just adopted it as my own joke or what, but where we're calling you like the little bartenders, the bartender in Assassin's Creed, like you go there for game tips, you know what I'm saying? They like guide you because for a lot of my battles I've definitely hit you up, even just talking like strategy, and a lot of times like the thing about, from a battler's perspective, because it's like there's this, hip hop purist in us that's like wants to we don't want people to like write our material or get too hands on with it, but at the same time, like we want like a soundboard to bounce ideas off of, or just kind of like talk and get that, you know, that those ideas flowing. And I think that's like you're really good at that. You know what I mean? Not like, yo, you need to tell them this, and that. Like it's less direct than that, as much as it's like speaking through a strategy or whatever. And we've definitely had a lot of convos going into battles, about that. One, I mean, some of which where it's like I know the other person was like Pat Stay. You know what I mean? Like he y'all were probably talking at the same
No,
time. You know?
no, I didn't talk to either you. I didn't talk to you. That was the first time Pat never ran his bars by me.
Mm.
I think he might have told me a little bit of the first, and I said, Pat, chill, because when that battle got booked, it was on the three-way phone call. You called me. I said I just got off with Pat, and then I said I think Pat wants to. I mentioned your name to Pat, and he would want to battle you for the chain, but I told him you didn't want to do it because you had like you tend to carve your path, and then Pat. I told Pat what you told me, which is you would battle him for the chain right away. And Pat's like, let's do that. Call him on three-way right now. And you guys were on three-way for like, I mean, we were on three-way. You guys were talking. I was with a girl I was dating at the time, and she had no idea what the fuck was happening. And she's just like listening to this like thing being
Damn.
spoken
See,
out.
I got
And
the
you guys,
worst memory. I don't even remember
yeah,
that, but
yeah, you
it
guys,
sounds like for sure
yeah.
that happened.
Yeah, so Pat told me, yeah, I want to battle for this. Like if my chain run is ending and I'm kind of running dry here, the guy who I want to battle and give him a fight, and maybe that's a guy I would love to beat. You know, I mean, to battle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that, you guys just made it happen over the phone and just did whatever you had to do with organic to go. This is what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like Pat's
Right.
agreeing to this, it was gonna agree because organic sometimes has his own ideas and but yeah, so like you what you were saying, Frack called me the battle rap whisperer one time. I thought that was pretty funny. Like I DM'd him, and he was like, "Yo, Hollow and Ilmac say you like a battle rap whisperer." But to be honest with you, it's not even though much. I don't get too much. I don't want to. I'm not really doing much because what it is I write and I rap like you guys in a sense of like how I write when I do music. So in a sense, I'm a peer in that sense. But I don't have a horse in a race. So like a lot of you guys the beauty of what you guys do and also the scary part about it, comedians get to refine their act. They get to try it in front of multiple different audiences. What works in Ohio might not work in Oregon, and what works in Portland might not even work in Eugene or whatever, and like they're like a fucking next to each other. So comedians get to try things and then learn from the errors of how it didn't work with an audience. And I couldn't even imagine you guys not knowing how that particular crowd and that one shot doing it for the first
Right.
time. Not that, yeah. So I look at it in that sense. And then when y'all bouncing things, you don't have it's like the process that Chappelle goes through or Kevin Hart or whoever when they're testing and or Bill Burr when they're testing their material with an audience and the audience is giving them that feedback. So and then the
Yeah.
comedians
Yeah.
too, and then comedians are like, you should have done this joke. I like how you was expanding on that. So for me, I don't have a horse in the race. So when you're running an idea by me, and you're like, what do you think about this? Because I'm not involved in that, but yet I'm a peer in a sense, and yet I'm a fan in a sense. I get to talk to you from a peer's perspective and a fan's perspective, and I could just go, well, as a fan, I would just want to see you do this, or as a whatever. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a lot. It's very easy for me because I'm not facing the any consequence ramifications from putting my fucking work in, and I know the anxiety that goes into it talking to you guys, and I hear it, and that's why I have so much respect for the culture.
No, that's 100% true. Like even when I think about it, there's like battle peers and stuff who it's like I'll run shit by, but it's like, all right, I know they're just gonna be like that's fire or whatever. But I'm like, but I want a perspective because as battlers, there's like the thin line of like, well, maybe I wouldn't have said that or done it that way, but it works for this person,
For
or
Ilmac, yeah,
yeah,
I'm not gonna tell
or
Ilmac what to do. Yeah,
yeah, or whatever, that might. There's a lot of biases and kind of built-in things where it's like that old like saying or quote that it's like the person or the man or the person most valuable to the society is the one with distance or whatever. I forget what the exact quote is, but essentially somebody who can view everything more objectively is
yeah.
able to offer actual helpful advice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Uh,
before we shift topics, I'll say something. So, like, versus Real Deal, I remember you were thinking about analyzing Real because Real's gonna analyze you, and you're like, Real Deal's gonna real deal me, meaning he's gonna fucking think about me, poke a hole in my armor, and then widen that hole for the pause or whatever for the next 3 rounds, and he's very good at that. And then I remember telling you, and your girl at the time was in the car or whatever because you had me on speaker, and I said, ill, don't play Real's game because the reality is you're battling in front of 1,000, 1,500 people who are there to see Cass versus Diz. You have good experience. Just battle right for 1,500 people. And I didn't fucking go, this is what you should say, this is this. But you came back and wrote, and just like that alone was just like, oh, I'm going to fucking write for
yeah,
this
yeah. Just
crowd and
out
write
rap
this.
them. Just out rap
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Focus on the
True.
crowd. Yeah, focus on the crowd. My bad. It's my dog. Dino, come here. I said focus on the event, make it an event, make it a big stage event, look big there. But like I wasn't sitting there like in the
Right.
process, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
just went and was like, boom, look what I got from that, along with chopping it up with Pete or whatever, and then you fucking you rapping your 2 rounds, and I'm like, oh, that's it, it's done. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes that like one little thing can trigger something to a battler because you guys can get in your own heads and you're sitting around going, I gotta do this and I gotta think
What's
that.
he
I'm like, wait,
thinking that I'm thinking, and
yeah,
how
yeah.
am yeah. Sometimes it's
And,
like you just gotta.
and this is how much of a genius I am. I just told you though how much people were in the place, which is the capacity. You could just Google it. I'm not, that's not smart information. I'm just like, how many people are gonna be there? You're like, it's a big crowd. It's like 2,000 people. It's gonna be like total slaughter. I'm like, yeah, then just remember that you're rapping to that crowd. It's like it's not fucking. There's nothing to be. That's something you knew already, but you were so onto the next thing that you were just
Yeah,
focused on something else. You forgot about the thing.
the simplicity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that type of shit though is like, again, being able to just get outside of our heads, as battlers. Sometimes like we can over strategize, so it's definitely good to have somebody that you run your bars by that's not a battle rapper. You know what I mean? Because there could be
100%.
the different battle rappers, different approaches, and whether it's somebody who's always just gonna be like, yeah, no, that's amazing, or someone who's gonna be like, well, I wouldn't do this because of this, this, and that. You know what I mean? There's a fine line between what can be advantageous constructive criticism and almost deconstructive criticism in a way, for battlers. And we got, we need to believe in our material going in too, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. You know what's funny? People that like, one of my friends, she told me that she's a child psychologist, and she said some of the best parenting advice I've ever heard is from people who are not parents. And I was like, that's weird because most of my friends, because we have this fucking surface, this general outlook of like, if you don't have kids, you don't know what it's like. But one of the things she was telling me, she was like, well, parents just kind of like look at parents and just go, yeah, you know how hard it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, it's difficult. But like people who aren't parents, and because they could look at it from the outside perspective, they're almost a little bit more rational. They're just thinking of it from a logical perspective. There's no emotions connected to it, and they're just kind of like, yeah, your daughter's doing what an 8-year-old would do. Yeah, she's fine or whatever. And then they're like, no, you can't tell me that. I'm a fucking parent. And we tend to think like if you never walked in the shoes, you don't know what it's like. But there's some really good football coaches who never played NFL football. There's some really good basketball coaches who never played basketball. And you can't tell me what it's like if you never walked in my shoes. But that doesn't mean you can't give me some sort of advice that from the outside looking in could be somewhat useful. You know what I mean? So I think
Right.
the rules apply not just in this battle aspect and hip hop in general, but even like rapping advice. Like I've had some friends that don't rap and they fucking lay towels down or some shit. And they'll be like, why don't you do this? And it could be the dumbest advice I've ever heard. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But I'll have someone every once in a while, they're like, yo, I see this. Why don't you do that? And it'll be something that I'm just like, that's common sense. Why didn't I fucking think? Like an advice one of my friends gave me, and I've given this to rappers too, was one of my friends. I was like in a spot of not thinking of like I wasn't able to think of certain ideas and concepts, and I just wasn't hungry. I wasn't motivated. And he said, "Well, think about what made you fall in love with hip hop in the first place." It's like that shit wasn't the. He didn't fucking sit around and give me some fucking Sigmund Freudish fucking advice or anything. He wasn't like going, oh, I'm gonna give you the most philosophical thing, but he was like, go back and get to where, figure out how you got here in the first place. And I just went back, and I remember for like a day or two, I played a bunch of shit that I grew up on, and I just remember getting hungry and motivated again. And there was a cat who he don't rap, he not a hip hop, but he just said something so basic that like another rapper would have been like, you need a routine, and think of some bars and sketch down, and they're just thinking so deep into it. And sometimes the surface response and that surface outlook, it is everything sometimes, because you skip 5-6 steps and you forgot the fundamentals of everything. It's like a boxer who lost a fight, and then he gets back in, and the trainer's like, we need to go work on your jab. And it's like, that's the first thing you worked on when you first started boxing. And then he wins the rematch because he kept them
you kind of take it for granted, the fundamentals or the basics that you started with.
100%.
Yeah. So some of the, I 100%, there's been moments like that I've had, like even with my girl, who like we showing her music and things, like she's not like a hip hop head, or you know what I mean, even like she listens to rap, it'll be like southern rap, but she's more into like R&B and like worldly music and all this other shit, you know what I'm saying? But like one thing I remember at one point, I'm paraphrasing, she was just like, I was showing her some shit, I think for spring, and long story short, basically it was kind of like, you're hella funny, you're like a troll, and like all these things, and like that's one element I don't see as much like in the music. And it's completely true, because when I go into music mode, I'm on my lyrical, or like my very thoughtful, or whatever the case, but I'm not like, so that was around the time, like shortly after that, I made a song called Locksaw, which is like the whole third verse is me telling a story about battling my 11-year-old niece. And the whole time I'm like backhandedly talk about how I won, but painting the picture about how I clearly lost. You know what I'm saying? But I'm claiming I won. You know what I mean? Like how a battler would, like, oh, the crowd was biased, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Or like, look at her bars on paper though. Like it's like claiming I won while clearly painting the picture that I lost. You know what I mean?
That's so good.
And it kind of came from that idea, that very basic thing she said, of just like, yeah, show another side of yourself, which is so, again, like how you said with your story, it's so it's so right there, common sense, you know what I mean? She didn't Sigmund Freud, but it was enough of an outside perspective of like just reminding you of the simple things of like, oh, okay. And it, those moments of recalibration.
Yeah, a lot of parallels here, because like I've been using this app Clubhouse, and for a few months, and when you get on there, like Bishop Brigante will, I never knew you were so funny. You're one of the funniest dudes on here. And I'm literally just trolling all day, and one of the homies who was a fan, who was a fan beforehand, but he became cool with me on Clubhouse. He said, if not for this app, I would have never known you thought like this. I would have thought you was a little bit more tight. I didn't know you were so loose. I didn't know you was having, you were so funny.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, man, I don't employ a lot of that in my music. So this go around, we haven't even gotten to my rap shit, but I did a song called Wrong One. I sent it to you actually, and I shot a video for it, and I'm dressed as 6ix9ine, and I'm doing all this silly ass shit, and it's satirical, but at the same time I'm showcasing a lot of things that I am willing to, make myself look ridiculous. I am willing for certain things, and a lot of people, my sarcasm always gets misread to text, because people think I'm taking myself actually too serious. So I'll write something like, it's about the art, it's about this. Like I'll write some shit that looks like it has some depth to it, and I'm taking myself so seriously, but I've never taken myself seriously. So much so, bro, I was on a date with this girl who thought I was a vegan, because we met at this little art exhibit, and she heard like the way I eat, or organic shit, because I've been on that since for a long time now. And I remember when we were sitting down, she was like, oh, wait, you not a vegan? I was like, nah. She said, so why does your Instagram profile say empathic, non-dispensationalist,
sapiosexual?
Yeah. So I was like, it's tongue in cheek, man. Like I wasn't really being serious on it, but I didn't even connect the dots that my profile probably represented that whatever I posted, the bio, I was serious about what I was writing, I was kind of just poking fun at it, and I'd post a picture of some food, and I'd be like, if you want to change your life instantly, just drink a kale shake. And people like, and people like who were like, that's not gonna change my life instantly. That won't make me forget about racism and my problems. And it's like none of it was serious. Like I was never serious. So I remember thinking,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
when homeboy told me on
It's because
Clubhouse
people
that,
are actually on that tip. That's why. You know,
yeah,
you're poking
yeah,
fun of it, but people do be
yeah.
posting dumbass shit like that.
Also, who I am in my music was also like that was making it seem like it was serious because they're like, oh, he must be some
Context, yeah.
uptight, takes himself too serious kind of cat. Shout outs to him. His name is DJ the DJ, and he be on Clubhouse. All the battlers know him now. He knows Geechee. All these guys know who he is now. He's cool in all these battle rooms, and he's the guy that told me that. And ever since he told me that, just like your girl told you that, you kind of look at it and go, shit, like there is more to me that I'm not putting into this
Mm-hmm.
music, and my art in general, and in my and what I'm, like my music, the videos and all that. Like I'm not even putting some of my personality in it. Like
Yeah.
there's a part of my personality that gets lost in translation, and it's like I don't want that shit to keep happening. I'm not old. Like I just, Royce and all these guys who are just getting it shaken now, and Griselda, they're fucking older than me. They've been doing this before me. So it's like I'm still getting the arrows going up. Let me start figuring out ways to put my personality in this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, sometimes we've been doing this so long, sometimes we think like there's nothing else to add. Like we're just
Yeah.
like, yo, we've been doing this so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about refining our skill set that we already have. What can I possibly add doing this so long? But
Yeah.
I'm now starting to do that, adding my
Shit, I've been
sarcasm,
rapping for
adding
like 25 years, bruh.
crazy. Look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and
Crazy.
it's 100% true, and it's because we're so close to it. You know what I mean? It's hard to see the forest for the trees. It's hard to see the bigger picture when you're so
Facts.
zoomed in, because we get zoomed in on technicalities or like, yo, I need to do this or that or whatever it is, and again, forgetting the basics of just like, yeah, but just showcase who you are. We've already taken that for granted. Well, I do in all my music. I talk about my life. I talk about these things, but is you're not gonna like rap a verse about a personality trait, like
Yeah,
yo,
exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
funny, like I try. You know what I mean?
facts.
Like it's
And
not.
it took me a while to realize that you can be intense without like having it externalized to where people see you're intense. Like I'm an intense person. I never fucking knew that. Like I lost my dad a year and a half ago, and I went to some grief counseling, and this guy was talking to me, and I was describing parts of me, and he said, you're very intense. And I was like, what? And I asked some of my friends, and my friends like, you're not that intense. You're not intense to me. But in the ways that I'm intense, I wasn't externalizing it. In the ways that I'm intense is I'll write a fucking 9-minute song. 5 minutes is not good enough for me. Like I won't just look at, like if I learn something about some anthropological shit I'm into, I won't just read a couple things on it. I'll dive in for 8 hours and forget my hygiene and forget about my life, like or what I gotta do the next morning. I'll forget I had an important appointment or some shit. So I am intense in a sense and extreme, and I noticed that, and I'm starting to notice that in the last, I guess, 6 months to a year. Nah, fuck that. Like the last year and a half, I've been thinking about it. Where my music for a while was the most extreme version of me. Like it was always the most extreme version of like how I perceive the world, my reality, how I sample what was in my umbo. I would just take that and then add that into my rap. Because if you listen to some of my shit, you would think I'm on that shit all day. Yeah, you hang out with me and you like, he hasn't talked about any of this for 5 hours, 8 hours. So it was always just the extreme version of me. So now I'm trying to find the balance of I have to also release this extreme version of me. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
like I have to find some sort of outlet for this. So yeah, I'm gonna maintain what it is I've been doing, but I'm also gonna balance it out and be myself, be who I am, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely as an artist a thin line between, uh, you know, wanting to do everything we want to do, bigger picture creatively, and then focusing on the subtleties of just being human within that same creative vision. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we can have these goals and these perceptions of our own art and these benchmarks of what we want to do in this certain level, and forget those subtle things. And that's the value of having people, you know, in your life, whether it be friends or, you know, like my girl or whoever, that can sort of look at it objectively, for sure.
And you know who won't say that to you? Real quick before you move on, you know who won't say that to you? Your phone. Your phone ain't gonna suggest that. So a lot of people these days,
The
like their phone
algorithm.
is yeah, algorithmically you're get so that's why a lot of people that like I have family members who like write these shits like little cousins, and they'll be like, they like hyper value like isolation, and like I don't have no friends and I don't have no this, and I'm like, just make sure the people around you know you better than your phone knows you. It's not about being old school and out of touch. You could still tap into the world and be technologically up to date and utilize these e-commerce ways and be tapped into society, how it's moving technologically. But just make sure you keep a person around you that'll kind of come in and, you know, kind of throw a fucking little monkey wrench in whatever it is you're doing that can throw you off track. Because your phone's not going to be like, hey, Ilmac, yo, you're not using enough of your humor. It doesn't know you that well. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like also what, you know, across social media and all these things, the algorithm, it's just going to serve you more of what you're already seeing. You know what I mean? Like that's how, you know, people become radicalized or whatever it is, because it will sort of, you could call it unbiased or very biased. It kind of could go either way. Unbiasedly just serve you what you're already have clicked on more and more and more. So there's a certain amount of like confirmation bias that then starts to be rooted in your outlook of the world. You know what I mean? I just heard this song by what's her name? Iman. Uh, Nah, not Europe. I forget her name. I'm terrible with names and just recall in general. But the
It
homie
ain't Iman Shumpert, is it?
Dijon Mustard. But the homie Tote reposted her music. It's really dope. Let me look it up. Let me not disrespect her. Yeah, it is. Europe. Iman Europe. She had this song and it was basically like, she was saying the lyrics were like you can't see everything from an iPhone screen. You know what I mean? And she then expands on that, and she's like kind of crooning, singing, rapping, and it's so real. Like, you know, it's easy with technology and everything to like access more information, but in the ways that we're kind of served information could be very limiting as well. You know what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
and it's easy to kind of think like, well, I'm seeing everything. This is how the world is right now because this is what's on my timeline. This microcosmic, small little peephole that we're looking through can kind of be our perception of the entirety, you know?
Yeah, and it gets looped so many times. You don't know nothing else. You don't expand beyond that. So you're just staying in a little loop. And we can't even fathom that some people are like how I'm describing me with the music. Their virtual selves is their most extreme version online. So online, they're a political, passionate person and radical in one sense, but they're fucking clean, you know, drinking a grande frap at Starbucks with their friends, chuckling while they fucking insulted and you know having all this outrage online. We can't fathom that some of the most motivational people writing all these cool memes going go out and get it, live your life to the fullest, are sitting by themselves watching Netflix in their living room, but just alone in their house. We can't fathom that they're telling everybody else to get it. But like, you know, when I bring this up to like my little cousins, they're like 17, 18 years old and whatnot, they act like I just fucking split an atom. They're like, oh my God, you're right. Like, because I do that. And it's like, no one's really, because we're not prepared. Like, how their parents, which are my cousins or my uncles and whatnot, they couldn't prepare them for this world because they wasn't raised for it. So, like,
Right.
now you have a 16, 18-year-old just thinking that I'll get into something real quick. This is only something I could tell you, or maybe somebody else, but I'm pretty sure only I could tell you this. You and I had a conversation that actually kind of fucked my head up one day. So we were talking about Portlandia, and I asked these questions. I never even watched it, but I knew it was like big at the time. And you told me something to the effect of, and I'll just encapsulate. You said, "Well, Portlandia is a situation where life actually imitated art." And you said a lot of this shit in Portlandia didn't even exist in Portland till fucking Portlandia came out. And that shit blew my fucking mind because I remember Sex in the City and certain shows in New York, they'd have these restaurants that was all pitch dark and you couldn't see the waiter and maybe see a little glimpse of your food. None of that shit existed in a Ben Stiller movie or whatever, but then a restaurant would see that and do that. And I remember you highlighting that. And a lot of this is the reality, same thing, where reality's imitating the virtual space. So a lot of people virtually, sort of like how they Portlandia and Portland started kind of replicating the Portlandia model in certain aspects and the culture and the hippie sense of like how to go, how personality traits, even the virtual space is doing the same thing where it's like, how can I create a version of myself that represents the idea of who I want to be, and then somebody and then they want to start to copy that in person and replicate that. Like I go to people's cribs and they have all these stupid dream catchers and shit on their wall, and they think they're all indigenous, but they don't know no tribes. They don't know nothing about the history. They're not really meditating. That's just essentially who they want to be. That's like that's a version of themselves that they're fascinated by that they haven't even tapped into yet. So I find that a little bit that's something I'm coming to the realization of this blank canvas that is social media, that's people driven, that we feed the content, but it's also that conversation we had. I always look at things now in a sense of going, is this a situation where, you know, the culture was already established, or did the culture kind of take this from
Yeah, it's
something
like
that was an idea?
a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way of like, you know, yes, there were hipsters and there were like, you know, whatever, you know, farm to plate things or whatever, right? But what that show did, for instance, is like put it on such a larger scale and give it that, you know, extreme version of it that it manifested to where now it was like the most moved to city for hella years in a row. I don't even know if it is still per capita the most moved to city hella years in a row. And it's like you're getting everyone from every other city that wants to go and live this lifestyle, you know, that they seen on Portlandia, knowing like, oh, that's a little bit satirical, but I want to eat at a, you know, farm to fork, like organic spot and like, you know, pick my chicken or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Like it becomes self-fulfilling because it kind of served as a beacon in a way of like, hey, all weirdos come here. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
I want to use the word local all day too. You know what I mean?
100%, man. Yeah. Uh, Shifting gears, even like you're on the West Coast now, correct?
Yeah, I live in Central Valley, California.
And how are you fucking with the West Coast, man? The vibes.
Oh, I love it. I love it out here, man. It's dope. It's just enough of a sense of my gentrified normalcy of seeing the shit I'm familiar with. Targets, Panera Breads, and a little, you know, kind of spot
Not
where
the
it looks like,
Panera bread.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I'm colonized enough that some of that shit makes me feel comfortable. Like looking at those spaces, as much as I know what it is, and it's just a sense. It's, you know, I get it, but I look at it and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in a place that I get. You know what I mean? Because they all look the same now. Now I go
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Phoenix, I go to all these cities, and I see, oh, Target, Panera, oh, like, you just know exactly where you are just by seeing 5 different stores. You're like, I know where I'm at. Oh, Ross, oh, I know where. So there gotta be a Chipotle. So there gotta be a this.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
got,
This is
and you
that
can,
section.
yeah, I can navigate this area all over the world, and we've kind of just corporatized every fucking space now. So yeah, being here, you get just enough of that to where you're just like, all right, that's around me. But then there's enough of the outside shit, which is you can drive an hour away in the Central Valley and kind of be away from all of it, and you're kind of like
Mm-hmm.
not around it at all. Then there's a little bit of the artsy shit, you know what I mean? Fresno gets a bad rep, but they have something there called the Art District, and it's beautiful. And every other month they have like live people coming out their houses playing music and shit. So a little Portlandia shit, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
they have just enough of that close by. There's, you know, you can go to Merced and do shit by Celia. These places are kind of like not like the most happening spots, but especially during the pandemic, LA wasn't the place to
Yeah.
be.
What?
As
Yeah.
yeah, fucking San Fran wasn't the place to be. The Bay wasn't the place to be. And there was just enough going on here while still getting enough peace that I kind of love this place. You know
No, I definitely feel it. Even living in Reseda in the valley, it's like I'm out the city, but I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can pull up to Santa Monica and do a watch on RYD and 20-30 minutes depending on traffic. But then I could walk outside and just go for a walk and breathe some shitty valley air in peace. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it's just enough.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I love it out here.
that's what's up, and yeah, we definitely have to link to hit the studio, the actual IRL studio. Maybe do one of these things live as well.
I'm ready.
What I feel like we talked about this recently. I just can't remember our last conversation. Like, did we talk about like what like if you've been reading anything lately? What you've been reading lately?
Yeah, I read it's funny because like all this shit I started seeing during the pandemic was shit I was already like everybody was tapping into shit you and I were talking about 4 years ago, 5 years ago on the phone. So everybody was like, "Oh my God, there's these global transnational entities that are subservient to governments." And it turns out the governments don't fucking have any power the way that we thought they did. But no, maybe they do. And there's all these inner battles that you and I used to talk about. So I started seeing everybody uh, sharing all these things, and I was like, I kind of wanted to step away from that, but I got drawn into it again. I read a book called Civilized to Death, which is really good. I'm into right now listening to podcasts and also reading like thesis. So like I'll listen to like a podcast, like a talk nerdy, or like uh, a history podcast with Mike Duncan or something. But every time, once in a while, I get into a podcast and
You said
some.
Mike Duncan.
I think his name's Mike Duncan. He does a public podcast called Revolutions, and
Mm.
it's amazing. He's like a Dan Carlin. He's just not as good as a storyteller as Dan Carlin, but it's a good history podcast. But the whole point is I listen to a podcast, listen to a guest, and they'll most likely be like, I don't know, a cognitive behavior scientist or anthropologist or
Let's
something.
go.
And yeah, and they'll talk about a thesis they wrote, and they'll be like, it's on my website. And lately, within the last year and a half, I've kind of been diving into reading a lot of shit like that. Like so that's type of this type. Like to give you an example, I just read something about how obsessive we are about sterility, and there's uh fucking there are we have all these autoimmune issues where because like the immune system was built on the presence of being attacked. I'm gonna bore everybody here. We'll get into some good
Nah.
gossip,
Let's talk
but
about it.
okay.
Let's get to
the
chopping this
immune
fable.
the immune system was built under the presence of being attacked. But like the U.S. military, when you have no fucking enemies, you create one. So the immune system just starts to attack itself, and that's how you get shit like lupus and allergies and so on and so forth. Well, a lot of that is attributed to sterility. So, and the obsession of sterility, like babies born through C-section have weaker immune systems than babies that are born
Hey, watch your
naturally.
mouth. Watch your mouth.
I was
Watch
born
your.
through C-section too, by the way. So,
Let's
but
go.
there's all this bacteria and no, and there's all this shit that comes out of like when you're born naturally. There's all this bacteria that comes out of the mother, like through discharge or whatever it is, that's like essential for your immune system. Like the first breast milk you drink is called colostrum, and it has all this good starter bacteria, sort of like probiotics and shit. That it's the healthiest shit you can give a baby, and it starts building its immune system. That's the mother's first breast milk. It has colostrum in it. Anyways, the whole point I say this is there are people who have autoimmune issues who are getting something called worm therapy. It's called helminthic therapy, and they're
Worm.
going
You
to these
said worm therapy.
yeah, helminthic therapy. And people with like autoimmune issues are going over there, and they're basically injecting these people with parasites. And what that is the immune system's now attacking the parasites instead of attacking itself. And it's starting to work, and even academia is starting to look at it, and the Western medicines like that they can't even avoid some of the data that it showcases. You'll still have the drug companies that are like, no bullshit, we'll treat lupus this way or whatever it is.
Buy
But
this
it's
pill.
starting to have yeah, exactly. But so I'll be reading shit like that, and that's kind of where my headspace goes with it.
That's crazy, bro. Yeah, you always have some crazy. You were the first person that put me on to like, and I'm sure I've referenced this in my music. I'm pretty sure, but mirror neurons like in your brain and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember we had some conversation, and it might even been in battle rap terms, because at the time, like I feel like leading up to the Pat Stay battle and shit, I was looking at a lot on like body language and watching TED talks on memorization and body language, and I've talked about it on stream before, that when I'm not physically writing for a battle, I'm still preparing in all these other ways mentally and trying to hone my entire performance and everything. But I remember we got into a discussion about like body language and everything, and you brought up mirror neurons in your brain, and how, as sort of a social, evolutionary trait, we developed, these neurons in our brain that directly will mirror other people's body language, and even especially if we perceive them in a position of authority or power. For instance, a job interview. If the interviewer, kind of slouches, or laughs in this certain tone, like we will naturally and subconsciously start to mimic that behavior. And it's sort of a social evolutionary thing that's happened over time. But yeah, I remember you're always good for those type of just
Yeah.
random facts.
With yeah, it's weird because the last 2 3 years I've been more spiritual because I lost my dad, so I've kind of been reading a lot more about spirituality and the difference of societies who believe in an afterlife versus those that don't. And you could and people like in Western society, we kind of like view death. We're scared of death. We're like
Mm-hmm.
we don't even talk about that. We talk more. We used to not talk about we used to talk about death in certain spaces and not talk about sex, but we used to talk about death. Now it's kind of flipped on its head because that's what humans do. We just go one way to the other. We never fucking figure a way out to
It's
balance this shit out.
extremes, yeah.
Yeah,
Pendulum
always.
swings.
Yeah, and now we talk about sex, but we avoid death. And look at what's happened in the last year and a half. Everything is like, oh my God, death. We need to avoid death so much so that to be honest with you, I've seen some people I care about, uncles and my dad, just suffer longer than they should because we think life is just this. Like we don't think that there's another space. So I started tapping into all of that. But with the some with the mirror neurons, there was something that I remember you were tapping into that yourself, and you were getting into body language before we even talked about it, and so on and so forth. And I remember you describing like your Big K performance and how you kind of had already did that, and what you was looking at, and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's pretty trippy. You know what I mean? We are naturally inclined to feed off things around us, and so on and so forth, which is why, and I don't even just think that it's also in a physical sense. I also think it's in a virtual sense because it's like somebody's upset and they're insulted. I want to be insulted too. Like that seems passionate. Like I need passion. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
energy
um,
itself is contagious for sure.
a, hu- a hundred. And before that, you put that to bed. I remember listening to a fighter who talks about mirror neurons, and that was weird. And he said that he looked at highlights with his coach and showed that most head kick knockouts in Muay Thai or kick or whatever it was, a guy would leg kick him, a guy would leg kick. So then the other guy just mirrors that and leg kicks back. So if you ever watch fights, a guy leg kick and another guy throw a leg kick right back. They do that a lot. So what he said was he tried to train himself to where somebody kicks his leg, he fakes like he's throwing a low kick and he actually lands a high kick and he's knocking guys
Mm.
out. And he saw a whole bunch of knockouts like that where a guy would get his leg kicked, and even though he's a better fighter, the other guy, I mean, sorry, the guy kicks the leg. He thinks the guy's gonna kick his leg back because that's just instinctive, and he's like, oh, boom, and he gets head kicked. So it's so funny that even people who tap into this, like in a fighting aspect, they're like, oh, I think I got a way to separate somebody's consciousness. You know what I mean? I could use these mirror
Yeah.
neurons in my favor. And he
Yeah.
actually, and he fucking mentioned that in the interview, and I thought that was mind blowing. I forgot who it was. I remember thinking, yeah, that's fucking smart. Like this guy got into psychology, but he put that whole shit in the ring and started knocking some people out with it. That's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. There's no all the physicality starts with your brain, anyways. So having a fundamentally stronger grasp on that would definitely give you an edge. And
Facts.
you know, some of you said struck me. Even talking about like death and things like, you know, it is such a like not it's not like taboo in a way of like you don't talk about that, but it's just this sort of it's what I feel like is it's like this unknown. You know what I mean? It's like the ocean. Like we know so little about the ocean because we don't have the ability to explore it as much, whatever it is, but we fear the ocean because it's so unknown. We don't know, you know what I mean? To me, it's like that shit is terrifying. Like I low key might rather go to outer space than like be alone in the ocean, like swimming, you know what I mean? And just not knowing what's beneath me. And I feel like there's some parallels to that with death, to where there's so much uncertainty and unknown that it's hard to talk about. And not only the unknown, it brings up these emotional things because of the fear that comes from the unknown and the fear of grief.
Right.
And because grief is such a deeper state of vulnerability, and vulnerability in a way is hard. It's hard to be vulnerable, you know what I mean, because it's so stigmatized with weakness. And then also you don't want to make people uncomfortable, and sort of society, like formalities and shit. But that all those I feel like are big contributors to talking about the subject of death itself. And there's it's a tough topic, I feel like, to skirt around, because you never know what someone's dealing with, or their state. And then there's so much wrapped up in the things that do talk about death in open spaces are religion and these spiritual spaces. And so then you don't want to step on anyone's toes with their beliefs
Yeah.
with that. And it's
So let me tell you, my dad, when he passed away, he wanted people playing music that he liked, that and his favorite music, doo wop, salsa, Latin jazz, and he wanted people to say all their best memories. And he said, I don't want nobody there. I don't want no tears. I want everybody saying a happy story that they had of me, and if they cry out of happiness, that's a lot better. And I remember I told some of the family members what he wanted, and they thought it was a little weird and they're abstruse or whatever. They were like, "Why?" Because there's a good movie. It's called Captain Fantastic, and
Oh,
he
I
knew.
love that movie, bro.
Yeah,
It's one of
yeah,
my favorite movies of the last hella
yeah,
years.
and you see this
Viggo
really sad.
Mortensen.
Yeah, you see this really sad funeral. Spoiler alert. You see this really sad funeral, and he goes in there, takes his wife out, and the people who knew her the best, or she dedicated her life to the most, was her husband and her kids, and they're on the fucking beach, and they're all dancing around her body, and they're all like, they're having this joyous moment, this glorious moment. They're celebrating her life. They're not celebrating the end. And I think that,
Yeah, she's like
yeah,
he's like they wouldn't have wanted she wouldn't have wanted this, like
she didn't want that. Yeah,
yeah.
and the church was all sad, and but they looked at as these outcasts of society, indigenous people, and many, you see a lot of people doing yoga and all this shit. A lot of shit that comes from, whether it's Sikhism, or whether it's Hinduism, or whether it's Taoism and whatnot. Death isn't as feared amongst these indigenous circles as much as we fear it in Western society. So much so that, you know, um, look at what we did to like Dr. Kevorkian. Like when I was a kid, it was thought that he was killing everybody, and then I watched this like documentary on him for whatever that's worth, and I saw that the patients went to him because they were suffering, and they were like, help this go easier and peacefully, not stretch longer and more
Transition.
painfully. Yeah, he never killed anybody, documented everything and all that. And the perception was he's killing people quicker and so on and so forth. Whereas, I'll tell you something. Dr. Christopher Ryan, he wrote a book called Civilized to Death. He tells a story. He says he watched this shit, Shark Week or whatever, where a seal is on the edge of whatever, and the shark comes in and kills it, and they slow motioned it, and it's like nature, struggle for survival, this and that. He went and researched the seal's lifespan, and what he found out was that the seal lived for like 24, 25 years. And that towards the end, the seal was like, boom, 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 gonna go here. This is my moment. And then everybody they even grieve too as well. Like there's a sense of grief amongst the seals. But he's like, think about that. The seal doesn't even feel anything. The endorphins, it's so many endorphins. The seal just goes instantly, and people go, oh, that's crazy that a shark ate it. And he's like, as opposed to what? getting fucking tubes down your throat, stitched up and humiliated, and living the last 5 to 6, 7 years of your life to where you have your consciousness is not even really there. You lose your memory, all this other stuff. But we're alive though. My mother's still alive. And then when they're dead, it's like, oh my God, their lives done. And it's like we don't really value quality of life. And all these people now that are trying to tap into all this Eastern philosophical ways that they're kind of, misconstruing or kind of misguided by, they're not really understanding, like, certain aspects that they think they understand, yin yang philosophy and all this other stuff. When if you tap into the Eastern philosophical ways, there's a sense of beauty towards the end of your life, because your life is to be celebrated now of all the things that you've done. Like, for example, even just like eternal, right? Like, we look at eternal love as, I have to be present with this one person, our love, and it lasts forever. But truth be told, I have girls in the past that I spent a year or two with, that their love for me is never going away. Part of me and who I exist today is because of the moments that they made me smile. They protected me. They made me feel safe. The organization that they gave me, the empathy that they gave me. I walk around with them. So that love is for eternal. And the Taoists view love like that. They view that if I gave you one day of love and one good moment of love, that is eternal. It lives with you the rest of the day. You can't undo it, and it naturally goes with you. 20 years later, it's going to be there, because you never know what that one day and that one moment did. There's a sense of there's an eternal aspect to it. And I
Yeah.
just think that, when we talk about death, not to get too deep, I don't know
No, no, yeah.
who's looking at
No.
I don't know who's looking at what here. I've lost some friends during COVID. I lost some family during COVID. I lost my dad a year and a half ago. I'm not some fucking weird oddball here with a fucking eye in his hoodie that's like, hey guys, death is great, don't avoid it. And I'm not gonna tap into that. But in a spiritual, I was just talking to Apathy about this. He was on Clubhouse and talk about, oh, this heaven, and we're so egotistical, we think of this. And I'm like, as opposed to what? Apathy, as opposed to the ego of a human being that's like, let's fucking keep people alive longer than they should be. That's egotistical as well, and that's not done in an optimal way. So for me, as I'm now maturing, at least I hope so, I'm trying to tap into something to where I'm like thinking about the quality of life. And that's not even just like something that I want to think about when I'm old. I want to start thinking about that now, which is the quality of life. You know what I mean? Because if I die at 64 or 65, God, hopefully I get to live that long, but I have a quality of life. That's better than living till 75. In my last 10 years, I couldn't move. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I've been processing of, I just want quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah, 100%, man. Like, death and love is monetized. Like, death and love in the under, capitalism and our way of life, I should say, Western civilization is big business. You know what I'm saying? Like, the hoops you got to jump through to get married, or do, even like the way the societal norms around dating, all these things, like it's there to benefit people outside of that union. You know what I mean? And the same thing with death, in the way of that, there's big pharma and these things where it's like natural holistic healing. All these things are so demonized or mysticized, you know what I mean? Like discredited because of the profitability that comes with delaying that death or monetizing it further. If a dollar isn't being made off it, then it's fringe. It's fringe
I'm
culture.
I'm still I'm still on that. Death and love is monetized. I love that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tap into that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm still on that.
huge.
Putting that in the rap.
Let's go. Huge. I just watched, uh, my grandma LaDonna, rest in peace. Like, she had stage 4 cancer, and like she was on hospice for about 2 years actually. But
And
she was like, bedridden, and didn't leave a bed for like the last like year of her life. You know what I mean? And that shit was just like, that shit was just pain. Now it was a struggle to watch. You know what I mean? And again, we had conversations about that, and she, I think had come to reckon with everything, and was sort of like at peace with everything, and just to see that, and the also how it affects people around her. Like, there was moments for me personally where I could have spent more time with her and went and seen her, and there's like parts of me that really regret that, right? But then at the same time, when I had those opportunities, I really thought about it, and didn't want to, because I was like scared to face that. I was scared to face the reality that I was going to lose, or look
Oh
at her
yeah,
and
it's the
be in
worst.
that
Yeah,
moment. You know what I mean? So I'd
yeah,
avoid it. I'd go, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Let's just go out today, have a, good time, whatever it is. Because I was living out of state. I've been living out, in Cali for like the last 5-6 years, and so when I'd visit, I'd have these finite amount of time, a couple times a year, and then I'm only there for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and so it was all like, while I'm there, it's on my mind every single day. I should go visit her, and I would usually end up doing it like the second day I was like got into town, the very next day, and then at my very last day, and then I gotta like rush to like get on the road or whatever it is, and I found myself avoiding it just because it's so hard to just reckon with that, and acknowledge it, even though everything inside just like, go spend that time, and
yeah.
then when I do that, I love it. You know what I mean? We chopped it up about shit or whatever, but there's just that element. And I even told her like, I've been like avoiding this, you know what I mean? Because it's hard. It I don't know, like, I don't know, it's hard to navigate in that space, you know what I mean? And to see people we care about in that
Yo,
position.
rest in peace, your grandma. And like my dad, I have similar stories, but I think that we think the opposite of life is just death. I think the opposite of life, personally, is more of that, is when you're alive but you're not. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like, there's no worse form of loneliness that's worse than when you're next to somebody and still lonely. Like, that's worse than just being by your actual self, to me. You know what I mean? So I just, yeah, that's it's a fucking, that's a
Yeah,
tragedy, man.
that's
Like, that's
that's
crazy.
su- that's really true. Yeah, I've definitely had that sensation too, of feeling alone. The cliche of feeling alone in a crowded room or whatever, and it's
That
because,
shit sucks.
yeah. And personally, like, I've always been, I feel like you could relate to this, but I've always been a very uh comfortable with being alone. I've always been, I'm the oldest. I'm like technically the only child from like both of my parents. I got siblings that came, from their relationships with other people, you know what I'm saying? And I got two sisters, I got a brother. But there are certain elements. So like early on when I was young, like my brother is on my mom's side, right? And my brother is 8 years younger than me. My sisters are like only like 4 years and 6 years or something, right? So they were seven, I think, but they were a lot older. So when I live with my dad full time or whatever. I go to my mom's on the weekend, spend the summers with her, etc. But like she's to this day tells me like, yeah, whenever you would come to my house on the weekend, you would just go in the room for an hour. This is like when I'm, 5, 6, 7 years old. She's like, you would just go in your room for an hour and be by yourself. And it was like, because I shared a room with my siblings and I was always around people, to where it's just like, she's like, even at that age, I felt like you just needed that decompression. You know what I'm saying?
Jeez,
And
that's crazy.
so personally, all that to say, I've always been a someone who doesn't mind solitude. In fact, I really I cherish that time with my thoughts, and I don't mind driving from LA to Portland, in 14, 16 hours by myself. And I actually really like that time. I really enjoy it, listening to whatever I want, writing, sitting with my thoughts, listening to podcasts, and just being able to let my mind roam and enjoy that
That
and have that space.
and full circle, that could be because you're fucking of mirror neurons or whatever. Somebody's mood might affect you more than the average person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like with loneliness. Like, I haven't been in a relationship for a minute, and yeah, I'll be like, damn, it's me and my dog, and I'll date a girl, and I'll be like, she'll leave at night or rather in the morning or whatever. And I'll sometimes think, oh, I wouldn't mind having that a little bit more frequent. But sometimes I think about, oh, damn, but then there's that our moods don't line up at 10 in the morning. And at 12, she wants to do this. And at 12, I'm thinking that. And it's like, there's a sense of freedom for me sometimes where I'm just like, I am sensitive to someone else's mood. And I'm a little bit watchful of how they're reacting. And it's like, I can kind of block out and internalize my shit to where you're just like, Nino's completely fine. Even though if I'm not, And sometimes, and I'm not just trying to put this on women, sometimes my brothers like this. Sometimes you're around people whose mood is just like they're irritated. They're like, their shit's overflowing in a certain way, and it's kind of like bringing you in there. So like, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, the sense
Mm-hmm.
of solitude, and there's some solace in it to where you could go up for 16 hours and you're not affected by that, but you're stimulated, and you're kind of like, relying on what's around you and your senses and stuff, and somebody else's, are we there yet, isn't fucking with you. It's kind of just like,
Yeah.
hey, I need to use the bathroom. It's kind of like, nah, there's a sense of autonomy and also a sense of control to it too. You know what I mean? I've come to the realization that I am intense, and I could be a little bit of a control freak in a sense in certain ways. And I
Same.
do like, I do like to be autonomous in many different ways, more so than other people. And I'm probably not the best collaborative partner in certain ways. You know what I mean? Because I have my ways that I'm very comfortable in, and it's not easy for me to step away. We haven't got to my music shit, which is fine. I love this conversation. But me and Fashawn just did an album, and I remember initially he has a process that's very different from me. But I started enjoying that process in a way where, for the first time in my life, I love making music with Fashawn more than I like making my music by myself, because my process is very layered and complex, and I might stretch something out, and Fash don't let me do that. Fash is like, it's done, move on. Yo, that's done. We good. That's fun. Or he's very simplistic in a sense of, in a good way, where he's like, the crowd will react to this. That's why it's a hook. And for me, the hook
Right.
has to, yeah. So
Yeah.
he thinks about performance. He thinks about an audience. He thinks like this. So, like, I just texted him the other day. I said, "Yo, I love working with you. I miss working with you because I got back from Arizona shooting videos. I'm like, I hate working with that Nino guy." And he thought it was a typo. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I can't fucking
No.
stand working with myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, there's that balance of, I'm just like you, where it's like, I love my having autonomy, and I love having that space where I'm in control. But lately, I've turned to, I've been open minded to how are ways where I could let some of that go to be a better collaborative
Mm-hmm.
partner, because Fash works in a way where we never sent, everything is in person, everything is in the spot, everything is whatever, and he likes to work fast too. He doesn't like to work slow, whereas I like to take my time. I like to sit with it. I like to vibe with it. Fash is like, we vibing now, let's just get it done. And it's like, it kind of took me out of my comfort zone, and I'm kind of like grateful for that. So I'm just like you in that sense, but I'm sort of now slowly, and I'm only letting it in maybe 10 to 20% of my life, where I'm trying to find ways where I could be I could be easier to collaborate with and
Yeah.
easier to work with. You know what I mean?
Nah, 100%. I know what you mean, man. Like, even, almost all of my music has an element of collaboration in the way I work so closely with Chase. And it's not just a beat maker perspective, where he sends me a beat and whoop wop. Like, I get in the studio, I call it pocket checks. Like, I hit him and I'll just be like, pocket check. And he's like, mumbles a cadence that I would have never thought of, because for one, he is an amazing rapper and has the producer ear and thinks of different pockets that I do. Me, it's like I tend to be like lyric first, but I'll think of a cadence, but it might be, it might be at halftime, or oh, I'm gonna kind of do the trap flow on this. He's like, nah, you could thread the needle and do the like regular flow on this beat. Don't get sidetracked by the hi-hats. Didn't even mean for that to rhyme, but you know what I'm saying. And there'll be things even with like hook making, like, oh, what if you go down instead of up, or whatever it is. And so that has been a learning experience, but it's been so long, it's become second nature. But overall, it's still making my music, my solo music. I, kind of executive decision at the end of the day, but like there's an element of trust in that, right? And so for you, with you and Fashawn, there's an element of trust. But it's also the same thing when I collab with Baby Franco, you know what I mean, or anybody in the cult, but especially Baby Franco. It's like, sometimes I'll have an idea for a hook, and like we'll both be in the studio. We both like my favorite way of creating is just in the moment, writing it, lay it down. If we need to re-record it later because it was a little, whatever, we can do that. But I like capturing that moment. I find it more difficult to like write at home, go to the studio. It's not as inspiring. There's a certain amount of inspiration for me that comes out of like what I think now, I can put down now, and I'm not going to overthink it. And a lot of times shit evolves from that. Like, ooh, in my head I wrote it this way, but now that I'm in the moment and accidentally hit this note, I want to do it that way. But also I learned to let go when I have an idea or something, and then say Baby Franco comes up, he's like, ooh, I thought of this melody, you know what I mean, and this riff, and it's like, boom, I trust you, and that's gonna sound great. That's amazing, you know.
That's
So
dope.
with that being easier to collaborate, there is a certain trust fall aspect to it that I think is important to that process. You know what I mean? Like you or me, we're not just gonna like let whoever it might be that we might not have that trust for kind of dictate the situation, but because I mean, Fash is a incredible artist and you have this rapport, it's a lot easier to step back. I
A
had
hundred
an
percent.
experience recently where I was in the lab with a group of people, Milk, Adam Flowers, and AKA Bum, and I never had met him. And he's from San Diego. He's homies with Adam Flowers, and they made a lot of music. And I fuck with Adam Flowers, and I fuck with Milk. And then there's this like new person, right? And this is very candid because like I didn't express this at the time, but I'm like putting on beats, and I'm like, all right, well, I want to do a song with Milk and Adam Flowers. How do I kind of like finesse this situation to be like, I'm not
Hundred.
trying to leave you out, but I'm trying to leave you. So then I'm like, you know what? Let me let go of that. Let's not do this song or this particular beat that I originally envisioned collabing with just these two. Let's find something to make, that I'm less attached to, that I have a clean canvas for. And we started it or whatever, and he started spitting like his idea for a verse, and I'm like, oh, okay, I trust you. Like, you're dope. Okay, I wasn't sure. I never met you as a new face, but now, okay, well, let's do this. And it was a very enjoyable experience from that, from that
Facts.
second forward. But there was definitely that like defense at first, like, oh, I don't know. Like, am I safe to give up that,
Facts.
trust?
And let me tell you, at the level that we're at, sometimes we forget this. But at the level that we're at, I would never bring someone to Fash in here that he never met that's not gonna hold their own and have some sort of value. Same thing with Fash. Every person he'll bring from, I can't even imagine that they're not gonna add some value. Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to think that somebody's gonna bring somebody in front of you that has no value.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's hard. Sometimes we forget that we're even at the level that somebody would not bring somebody into the space. Because I remember one time I had a similar situation, and my man told me something that calmed me down for the rest of my life. He said, "You're fucking Nino Bloods. I know that. I would never bring some dude around you that has no, that at least has not just has value, but that you can't tell no to. Like I wouldn't even allow that guy in there." And I thought, I wonder if all my friends do that. So I called Graph. I called all my friends. I'm like, would you do that? They're like, no, I would do the same thing. So it's like that's how I am. But
Yeah.
you forget that there's some reciprocity there where you're not gonna bring some dude around Chase, Milk, or whoever you're working with and go, yeah, I got this dope like me. They don't know who the fuck I am, and you're like, yo, Nino would kill this track, or Frack, or whoever you know that they may not know. You're not gonna bring somebody in there that can't add value in many different ways.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah, sometimes you forget. Sometimes you forget that like ain't nobody gonna bring no slouch around Ilmac. It's just not
That
gonna happen.
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
that's a good point. I actually also seen some sort of the other side of that. So recently of a homie who's a incredible rapper had brought a homie through, and me and him started writing some shit, and then his boy was kind of like, oh, like to him, like, oh, hey, I wrote these bars or whatever. I never heard the bars because he kind of was like, oh, okay, hey, that's cool, you know what I mean? But I didn't
Yeah,
hear him
smart.
say that or whatever, but I know that I never heard the bars, like, so he kind of like had that,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, nah, you chilling, we got this or whatever it is. Maybe it was unspoken, whatever. But I definitely sort of seen that moment where like there's a split second of like, oh shit, is it? Am I gonna have to be the bad guy or whatever? And it was just like, nope, not
No,
even
me,
an
me,
issue.
me and Fast was working on a song. There was a homie, and he just started writing a rap, and we just was like, yeah, that's cool, and we just did the song. Like we didn't even acknowledge that because like it was like a sense of understanding. And
Yep.
but I can't. I also understand because like I used to be that guy. I used to be in Graph Studio before I was anybody,
Yeah,
and I'd hear a
true.
beat, and I'm like, I'm writing that rap, going, yo, I'm writing a rap just in case Grass says, yo, Nino, what you think of this? I'm gonna get in there. You know what I mean? Just buying
Mm-hmm.
my time. So even if a cat is hungry like that, I still have like some sort of like, all right, there's a sense of discomfort there because I'm like, you're not getting on this song with two hitters, bro.
Yeah,
Not gonna,
yeah, yeah,
you're,
yeah.
you didn't do what we've done to earn this, and you're not here for that. But I also have a respect for it where he's just like that, even if he's not lit, but like he's that prepared. Like
Yeah,
he's like,
I've been
I
that for
want,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I've been in
yeah,
that position.
yeah, yeah. So I have there's a duality factor where it's just like, you cut it out. Don't even write more. Like you're not gonna get
Yeah,
on this.
yeah, yeah.
But then there's a sense of like, I respect it though. You
No,
ready
one
to
hundred
get on this
percent.
shit?
It's like, hey,
Yeah,
that's fire. Like you should use that on something.
yeah,
it's that like, oh, that's
yeah.
fire. You know what I mean? I could definitely see
I'm,
you killing that on
you
something like
you
for your
you gonna
project.
you gonna do something good with that one day, yo. Real talk. That's a
We're
pretty
gonna
solid.
do so good. Yeah, I can hear that over one of your producers' beats, or you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Can't wait to see what you do with that, bro. Keep me in the loop. You know what
Yeah,
I
you
mean?
should get me on that, whatever it
Yeah.
is, whatever that ends up on. Holler at me.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, you kind of like skimmed over that, and I want to actually pick your brain on that. Like, so you and Fashawn got a project. You've
Yeah,
mentioned that to
man.
me before, so I'm not trying to fake like it's new for the podcast, but I don't think we really got into how that came to be.
Yeah. So I hadn't worked with any rappers for years. I hadn't collabed because I've been taking off some records that the producer is still friends with me because that's how he met me. And the rapper has told, I don't want to, I'm not trying to make myself look like anything. I'm just telling you guys what producers or artists have even told me. So I don't want nobody to be like, well, whatever. But I had situations where I would hand in a really killer verse in 2015, 2014, 2013. I would hand in especially after Rhyme of the Year. And I wrote my ass off. And then I've met the producer through submitting my verse, and now he makes free beats for me, even though he charges thousands of dollars. People could do the math. So, like Saram Sounds, for example, produced Roar for Eminem and Royce. He produced Southpaw, I think it's called, for Slaughterhouse. He produced for Lil Wayne. He just did Wrong One. He just did Rhyme of the Decade. So I be meeting producers that are hitters who go, yo, I don't know why you was taking off this record. I have no idea, but you, to me, and that rapper heard you and was like, "What the fuck? All right, I got to change my verse." A week later, you're off the verse. So I realized I had a talent and I had a skill set that I was. It wasn't what it was on Slaughterhouse when I didn't have my voice. I didn't know how to use my voice, but I could still write with these cats. I'm like, all right, I knew how to write these cats, but I realized, damn, I'm doing something. And did I rap too long? Did I go? I thought I did something wrong. But then the producers or another rapper will reach out to me and go, yo, to me, you had better verse than all of us. I want to work with you. So it was enough to keep me in the loop as far as, all right, I know what I'm doing something right. But it was also discouraging in the sense that I'm getting taken off records. You're probably wondering what the fuck this got to do with Fash.
Mm-mm.
I've kind of been a little bit, that's my own insecurities. But my my for years I've been a little bit, I don't want to say PTSD, like some form of it, but I'm like, I'm scared to fucking be around rappers and work with them because I don't want to be the guy that thinks he's getting a look as something goes wrong. And I'm like, I just don't want to get excited about something. That's why I was doing TV shit in the background. I do Spanish songs that get placed. And I'm like, that's safe for me because I could make money, do shit, and I'm not interfering with all this rapper shit. And it hadn't happened enough for me to even be like that. That's just something where I don't know why I was triggered. It could be something from my childhood or something. And Fashawn heard me and just no following bullshit, no whatever. He just cut from the cloth. He signed the Nas, he signed a
The
Mass
mass
Appeal.
appeal, yeah.
Yeah, doing one of the biggest festivals in California, Grizzly Fest, where they got Tyler, Janae, Lupe on this. J. Cole's, I think, performed on this. He's got in the studio with Nipsey, J. Cole on the cover, Double XL. He's just like, where the fuck were you this good? When? I never heard it. Where you been? And I'm like, well, I've developed my own little digital shit. He's like, nah, bro, you are lit. Like, I want to get you out there. I want to get you in front of evidence. I want to because he fucks with Ev. He did a whole album of Alchemist. I want to get you in front of Alchemist. I just hadn't heard a rapper say that since a Joe Budden. I hadn't heard a rapper say that since a Crooked Eye. So it's not that I've been staying around the culture to get those looks, but I was a little thrown off by it. So we kind of just kept our distance. And it's this studio that we in. We co-own it. We both put all this gear in. And when I came out to Cali, I was like, all right, we're gonna knock some joints out. And it all was organic. It was never like, we're gonna work Thursday, Wednesday. It was like, that beat's dope. Yo, what's up? You want to knock this out? And he came up to me and said, do you want to do a project? I didn't even think he could do it because he was signed a Mass Appeal and he's his own person and he got his own shit. He had his own festival. So I'm like, I knew he fucked with Rhymes and all these. Sorry, I just got a call. I knew he fucked with all these labels, and I was like, what are we doing with the records? Like, how do you want to release this? And he just said, let's do the album. I just want to make good music, and I don't care about none of that. So we sat around, and the pandemic, we did it before the pandemic, and the pandemic only increased it. And me and Fash have about like 24 songs, 25 records. Yo, we kick ass, and not to mention, I can't wait till like you and I kick it off this. We go back and forth, and I'm willing to say this. I think as good as anyone I've ever heard. And it's literally comparable. It's comparable to fucking, we be playing it. We be like, all right, let's listen to Kiss and Styles. Let's listen to Jay and Biggie. Let's listen to all the dudes who do the back and forth shit, Griselda, whoever it is. And I just hear it for me, and maybe I'm biased. I'm just like, him and I figured out a way where we became such good friends, and it was such natural that like he's like family to me, that you wouldn't even believe we're doing what we're doing, punching back and forth, the in and out the pockets, and we record everything on the spot. We write everything on the spot. You doing those too? I'm doing those too. So I never knew I was gonna do that with a guy like that. I know Cambada and I, when I first heard him, Cambada's blowing up. He just did an album with Lux now. He's doing his thing. Nobody knew who Cambada was until I put him on a record.
You put me on Cambada, yeah.
There you go. And there was a record called The Watchmen with Crooked Eye and Styles. I developed a natural chemistry with Cam. So to me, it's all about friendship and developing the chemistry. It's not about how big you are. It's about chemistry. So with last thing I thought we was going to have the chemistry we have. And yeah, it allowed for us to have a label deal. I focused on Illuminati Reject 3 after that. I said, let me start working on that. And I knew this was going to be a huge look for me just because Fashawn post a song and Nas will post it and fucking Alchemist will post it. And I'm like, okay, I don't have any of that. I don't have those looks. And Fash is such a good guy. He's like, take advantage of these looks that I could give you. Let's get you out there. So part of it is just like, man, it happened organically. That's how it went down. And it's actually given me a whole new, how people be like, I got a new lease on life because I went through this experience. Like, it's given me such love and such hope for a future in this in a way that I didn't even anticipate. Not that I think I'm gonna be the next blah blah. It's just the arrows going up after I've been doing this for this long. Yeah. And that's all you could ask for. Coogee Rap told me, listen, you ain't gotta be the hottest guy, but if you in this shit 10, 15 years and the arrows trending up, it's gonna look crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of cats that we know haven't had that look till later on. MF Dooms and all so on and so. And look, another thing to announce.
Said 2 Chainz. Titty boy.
2 Chainz. I've never said this publicly, but here it's world premiered here. I'm on an Atmosphere album. I just signed off all the papers. Sadiq from Rhymesayers sent me all the split sheets and everything of what I gotta sign. And the way that happened was me and Slug been cool for mad long. He was hearing some of the shit I was doing here and said, yo, I got a joint empty space. If Ant don't like it, it's not going to make the album. Again, that PTSD hit though. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, am I going to get taken off again? I did the verse. I was hopeful. And sure enough, Slug's like, Ant loved it. It's making an Atmosphere album. I just got the announcement the email the other day. It's crazy. A$AP Rock's on the album. MF Doom's on the album. Rest in peace. He got Doom shit. He got A$AP on it. He got Ciroc on it. And now I'm on it. And it's like,
that's crazy.
I know you just asked about this album, but to just let anybody know who's listening to this is just like, put your head down, do the work, get better, because I got better during the last 5-6 years when I wasn't on a scale that people were hearing me with all these other rappers. I hadn't done collabs. All this shit, people be like, you need to get your shit, you need to collab, you need to work with these people. I did none of that, but I got better. Like I improved. I did Rhyme of the Years. I did all these songs that I was putting the work in, and then eventually, your peers, they might recognize you. You might get these looks, and so
things tend to happen when they should. You know what I mean? Like, right. There's been so many instances where, there's been like, things I looked at as like opportunities missed or collaborations or whatever that didn't happen in a certain time frame, that I realized in retrospect I wasn't prepared for. Actually, very relating to what we're talking about. For instance, I actually have a song with, I don't even know if I told you this, maybe, about, I have a song with Fash, produced
Oh
by
wow.
Evidence. And
Oh wow.
we didn't work in person. It was a thing where I was working on a project with Evidence. I was like staying
I
with him at
remember
his
that.
crib and shit. And he had this, like, he was sitting on this verse hook that Fash had. That was crazy. And he's like, yo, we should use this for our project. You should rap a
Wow.
verse on this, whatever, whatever. Um, that to say, this is like, we were working on that in like 2015, 2016.
I
And
remember.
uh that's never came out. And like at the time, or a year maybe two after that, I was looking at that like, fuck man, like, what did I do wrong, or this opportunity, da, da, da. But now in retrospect, I look at it and I'm like, I wasn't ready for that. You know what I mean? My art wasn't where I think, not to say I wasn't dope or whatever. We know better now. We're past that. But that also, we're able to look at our art, be the biggest critic, but also be realistic to a certain extent in knowing that I wasn't I wasn't as well suited as I am now, or whatever the
Facts.
case may be, or that could have put into motion things that I wouldn't have been prepared for, even if I was prepared for that. But now I'm sitting in a better position with my art, creatively, etc.
Two things. Two things. A, that's evidence. So just so you know, and this is public, you could clip this if you want. He's dragging a project with Apathy now, and he dragged a project with Planet Asia forever. Planet Asia was just here about like 6 months ago. We were kicking it, and Asia's like, I've been working on this album with Evidence forever. He had to go to
I'm
Evidence,
pretty sure
track.
that project was in the works when 2015, 2016, when I feel like I
Yeah,
remember hearing
he
songs from that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and they just started getting it done. Like, so, like that just seems to be the Ev way, where he gets lost in the shuffle of the things he's doing. And then another thing is, yeah, like I was just gonna say that. I'm glad you hip to that. You would have just did a project with Evidence. You would have just had a song, a couple projects, but now you can do like and create something and actually take advantage of it in ways that you couldn't before, because you understand all the elements of things, not only musically, but the ways of what you could do with the music, and you could clip content in a different way that you could have
Mm-hmm.
before. And back
Mm-hmm.
then, like now, it would have been an old project that you're just like, damn, I could have done. In retrospect, I could have done more with that project, but now
Bruh.
you're like, yeah, there's
Actually,
all this
one of
white
those
noise
songs
going on.
came out on Mad Child's album. It was a song that I did with Ev, and it was a situation again. I didn't work with Mad Child like in person, but I laid a verse and a hook for this song. It was actually the very first collab me and Ev did. And then I left town, whatever, whatever. Then we are working on this project, and it was just a song that I needed to finish forever. And he's like, well, let's get a feature. Let's get Mad Child on it. I was like, cool. He got Mad Child on it. Again, the project just sat. Years later, he hit me like, bruh, hey, can we put this song on Mad Child's project? I was like, yeah, cool. But even hearing that and hearing and remembering other songs, like I'm like, bro, I was trash. Like I wasn't at the level I'm at now, even on the rapping and the creative and
Right,
outside of all that. You know what I
a
mean? And
hundred,
I
a
remember when
hundred.
we were going through it, even just little conversations that he was saying, like, things along the lines of like make it more human, or like less lyrical miracle, that not exact quotes, but that was the idea, and me being like, oh, okay, for sure. And then that translating to me like writing feelings rather than expressing feelings, you know what I'm saying? Like,
So that's a big deal. That's a
mm-hmm.
big deal.
it's
You
it's
know, it,
it's there's, what it is, and let you get to, there's that you can just write something that's supposed to be a feeling, or you can convey the feeling, you know what I mean? Those are
right.
two different things.
Big deal. Huge difference. That's how battle rap is. There's a guy who says less with his passion and his intent, and worse, a guy who's like really writing the thing there, but he's not delivering it in a certain way. It's like it's big on when you can see the heart that comes out of that. What's
Yeah.
crazy is I felt like what you did with the Evidence thing with the Slaughterhouse shit, because a lot of people like, yo, what would have happened and this and that and yada yada yada. And I listen to Slaughterhouse and I'm like, okay, I wrote like shit that to this day you can still quote. Like I've had battle
Crazy.
rappers and these, yeah, people come up to me now and be like, you could say that. this day and yada yada. Those you were outrighting dudes, but I can't stand my fucking voice. I can't stand how I utilize my voice. Um, Compared to where I'm at now. Obviously, for the time being, I was doing what I was doing, but I hadn't really, you know, sampled and really put things out and tried enough things to get to a place where I'm confident now. Now I'll try something with Fash and I'll be like, let me try this. And I'm confident enough to try something that may or may not work.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas back then I never wanted to not make something not work. I didn't want to take chances. I was just very much in pockets that I was comfortable in because I wanted to just be dope and comfortable. Now I'm willing to go with Fash and go, all right, let's fucking try this weird thing. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to, yeah. So yeah, I look back and it's crazy that you look at the F thing like that, because that's how I look at the Slaughterhouse thing. Like, you know, I don't look at just, oh, this would have led to this and you know, blah blah blah. Like, I don't play the game like that and stack the bricks the way other people think I should stack them. For me, it's like I kind of like the way this played out because I was not seasoned, I was not ready. I didn't want the life that you need. I didn't want to live the life that you needed to live and what was required of an artist in those at that time to get it popping.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm kind of glad at the way it played out.
100%, bro. Like the people were saying that after Scribble Jam to me, like, bro, you didn't capitalize and put an album out. Like, you know how trash I was at music at that time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thankful that I didn't capitalize on that. How, you know, quote unquote, how I should have. You know what I mean? And that all kind of comes back to that idea. I think of things happen as they should in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And
100%.
but getting back to what you were just saying, again, I kind of want to expand on that. You're talking about, you know, the Slaughterhouse joint. So, for quick context, in case people don't know, you were on a song with Joe Budden, with Royce Crooked, and Joel Ortiz called Slaughterhouse,
Hmm.
and it was basically the inception, you know, what's kind of credited as the inception of the group Slaughterhouse. It was a song title first, and then later, like them four got, you know, started a group, and they called it Slaughterhouse. So you know, I know that you've addressed it, and people have asked as far as like, well, I seen even in the comments when I posted clips from that song, because I think it's a historical moment. You know what I mean? That's definitely worth diving into a little bit. You know, there's a lot of like, well, how come, you know, Nino wasn't
Yeah.
in the group, whatever. And I've seen like clips of like, you know, the guys talking about it,
Hmm.
the guys talking about it, or even if it's not that directly sort of talking about the idea behind Slaughterhouse. But I just
Hmm.
kind of want to give you the floor to sort of, because I know that that's been something that you know, people have got at you about. What's your, you know, your take on that song, how it came to be, and then what came from it,
Yeah.
sort of starting
Dino, come here.
at the beginning.
He left. He left. Hold on 1 second, man.
It's all
God damn
good.
it. It's okay.
See,
Come here, Dino.
I want to get a dog, chat.
Come here, Dino.
I want a
You gonna
pit. I want a red or a blue nose pit, low key. If I was to have like three dogs, it'd be a red nose, a blue nose, and a husky. It's just I
My
need a
bad, bro. I'm
yard
doing
if
an
I'm gonna do
interview. My
that.
fault. Yeah. So the whole slaughterhouse shit. So the whole slaughterhouse shit. So people have some context, and I'm coming right back in the picture. My bad. My dog is a wild card. His name is Dino. You know what I mean? Even my dog, even my
That's
dog
funny.
rhymes with me. So the whole slaughterhouse shit was a song, and I had a good relationship with Joe at the time. I was also buzzing, and I was buzzing faster than I thought I would be buzzing. To put it in the context, I had a song with Akon out at the time called Change Man. I had already did a song with Joe. I had did a song with Saigon, Crooked Eye, and Scram Jones for his album, and then we put it on mine called Third Degree. Another song called Four in the Clip with Coogee Rap, Joel, and Styles P. So I had already had a buzz on a lot of the blogs, on Two Dope Boys and Nine
Mm-hmm.
Rights and all those big blogs. They would give me in Hip Hop
I
DX and
remember
All
that.
Hip Hop. They would give me these huge spots. And then Slaughterhouse came out because Joe, I owed him a verse because he did one for my mixtape. He did a record for me called Times Are Hard. and he said, "Yo, let's knock this out," because he knew how fast I worked, and that was an advantage I had because he saw how quick I would talk to him about a rap, and then he'd see it on a blog the next day, and he's like, "Damn, this kid works as fast like me." So that was where Joe and I developed some sense of camaraderie and a sense of like almost like a peer to peer thing where he was like, "This kid works as fast as I do." So he hit me saying, "I need a song in 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever it was," and then I was working on a mixtape with Crooked I called All Regional at the time, and we never did the mixtape because Slaughterhouse just I was like, "Crook, do your thing,"
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Does Crook work that fast?" I said, "Yeah." So I hit Crook up, he did it, and then he had Joel do it because he knew Joel, and him and Joel had a good rapport. I had a relationship with Joel too, and then Royce was the one that he was like, it would be crazy if I got Royce on it. It only started with like one or two people, and then he was like, it'd be crazy if I got Royce on it because me and Royce have a problem. Right at the time, they had like this little tension. So Shake from Two Dope Boys, I called him. He got me Royce's he got me Royce's info. We called Royce, me and Joe, and Royce just had a wife just had a baby, and he was like, my wife just delivered a baby like 2 hours ago. But he's like, he called us back. He's like, yo, my wife said it's good. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So he knew who I was. He knew who everybody was. And he ran out to the studio. And that's how he did the verse. It was crazy. And all of us just submitted our
Damn.
verse. Yeah. And all of us just submitted our verse. And yeah, the record came out. And, at the time, it's crazy to think about because social media back then, our social impressions and things we went by was what the blogs would show. Like that shit got 180,000 views, and what was crazy was the numbers were slightly more real in those days than the fucking numbers now. Because I know kids on YouTube will get 800,000 views and they can't fucking sell a show. Like back then, if the blog showed you got 300,000 views, they could hit you and be like, "Yo, bro, you could get booked off this," and then this is where they give you their own analytics. So we got down that back then too. What was crazy is you could see your downloads, not just streams. So a download to me back then was worth way more than a stream is
Yeah.
now. Because a stream is like some cat could tune in by accident. We got like 300,000 downloads, bro. Like that's insane. You know what I mean? So I think in the first day, so it was so big, the numbers were so outrageous, and the blogs were the ones that were telling Joe, you may want to stick with something like this because I've never did only swagger like us or whatever the fuck, whatever Kanye would do was hitting the numbers we was hitting, and it was a collection of a bunch of different fan bases just coming to one, and just people just exploding seeing it. So they decided to do it, and not to get into too much specifics, but I was a little wet behind the ears in a sense of I had my business right as far as like ghostwriting and publishing and shit like that. But they had four managers. Joe Budden had a manager named Crystal Isaacs, Joel Mike Harad, Mike Haran. Crooked I had a cat named Mickey, and Royce has a dude named I think his
Wood.
name is Keno.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Wood
Keno.
is
Yeah.
Inspector
So
Dick. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you have four managers. Crystal Isaacs is a very well known Def Jam person who used to be Mozzie's boss, who hosted your battles, full circle. And all these guys, all these people are like having these huge. I had no manager. I had no manager, and I was the only one talking from a business perspective for my own self and for what my value is for the group. So that worked against me. So there was a little bit of politics in certain spaces that I'm not going to say certain things, and also looking back, like if I was where I was with Fash now, like how you said things work when they're supposed to, I would have completely finagled the bagel and been like, this is, I'm 100% in, but I asked too many questions, like every young artist. I asked a lot of questions. I didn't believe a lot of the things that they were saying. I also didn't think it. And then the last thing is coming from Brooklyn, I wasn't friends with these guys. So it was very weird to convince me that I was safe working in a group with four dudes I didn't even know like that. One's from Detroit, one's from Long Beach, the other one's from Brooklyn. I kind of had somewhat of a connection to Joel. And then I knew Joe Budden. In the group, I was the coolest one with Joe before Joel wasn't as cool with Joe as I was. Crook wasn't, nor Royce. I knew Joe better than all of them. So for me, going into business with Joe, I had the most insight, and as you can see,
You're
even with
like,
Joe Budden,
I don't know about
yeah,
this.
yeah. So so so
Oh
so although
shit.
I was in the outs, and mind you, I can defend Joe for how this podcast should happen. I actually think he's right here, but Joe's got a lot of bad dealings and how he deals with people because he's a wild card in himself. But it was an odd situation because I was in the outs in some ways, but also I was also in the no because I knew Joe better than all of those guys knew him in a lot of different ways, not just directly, also from secondhand of how he was dealing with certain producers he was on mixes. And I know Joe's just all over the place, and I know Joe's gonna have an explosive moment every 2 to 3 months. And I was like, being in a group with this guy, I think the other three saw it as a branding thing. The other guys was like, oh, I could be in a group with Joe Budden. I just got to rap with him and yada yada yada. But I knew what I was going, pause. I knew what I was going to get in bed with. I knew what that relationship required. So in a sense, looking back, that's the thing that worked against me the most, which is if you and I'm just going to throw a name out there, Disaster, and somebody's like, hey, Diz wants to do this with me. Not saying Diz is a bad person to deal with. I'm just throwing him out there. But I'm just using him as an example because he has some sort of public image along with you having a personal relationship with him. Even though Diz has this huge following, you would go, dealing with Diz this way, you're going to look at it differently than another person in a branding sense. And even though it's a good plug, it's like, come on, guys, this is a great look for us. You, whether you do it or not, you're going to have some insight on Diz a little bit more than the average person,
Yeah.
Whereas if some battler like from the East Coast barely knows him or the West Coast barely knows him, dealings with Diz and you have a better history with him. So I don't want to compare Diz to Joe Budden. That's
Yeah,
unfair.
I like how you just brought that just randomly. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
not.
So, yeah,
It's
yeah, but
not the case, but yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah,
randomly.
yeah,
Like he doesn't have that sort of Yeah, no, for sure.
yeah. Of course, they're not nowhere near the same. But this just would never drop the mic. Come on, guys, they're nothing alike. But the thing is working with Joe, I knew what it required, and I was just like, this is a little bit different. So I had a skepticism that the other managers didn't have, that the other artists didn't have. And to be fair, Mathlex should confirm this. I just talked to Mathlex for 20 minutes yesterday about how good Joe did, the good stuff Joe did, because in this business, Joe's been an ally to me. He's never been an adversary. And even in the Slaughterhouse situation, he was never an adversary. He was an ally. But it was me. So I know that the guys want to say, because Joe's willing to take the clip and go, Joe did this and that happened, and Joe did this, and then Joe says what he says. To be honest with you, Joe was my biggest ally, and Joe was the one that was trying to get me to do it. And
Mm.
and as God is my witness, there's many sides to many stories. Joe was like, you need to do this. He invited me to do the show. He invited me to come out. He wanted me to be a part of it. But to a certain extent, I was like, I just started. They were in the game for mad long. That was like a big look for all of them. And for me, I had a little bit of a delusion where I was like, I just got in here, man. This ain't, if I got this in the first year, imagine what I'm gonna get in year
Yeah,
2 and year
yeah.
3. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't until they fucking, were in the Forever video that I was like, oh my God, I might have made a mistake. This was a bad look. I should have played my cards more better, and I could have made this work for me instead of just detaching myself from it. But looking back, the fallouts exactly for all the reasons. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't wrong. I wasn't even wrong in '08.
Yeah.
Uh, I was actually right many of the reasons, and even the Shady deal. If you ever get Crooked Eye on here, there was an issue with Slaughterhouse signing the Shady. I didn't think they should have done it. I thought their first album did great. They were getting festivals off of it. I thought they should have done a second one the same way they did the first one. Just do it independently and keep growing that. But they signed a Shady for whatever reason you decide to sign a Shady for. And I remember talking to Crooked Eye and Joe at the time, and I thought this is where it can go bad. He's already done what he could do for you. Put you into this, he put you in the video, he should put you in Forever. He's gonna do the cipher with you. But what else is he gonna do with you? He's not Rick Ross. He's not Jay-Z. He's not a guy who knows how to integrate himself with his artists. He just never has. 50 did that for himself. So that was always a conversation, and I was always suspicious of that. Even because a lot of people think when they got the Shady deal that I was like fucking upset and hurt and bitter and this and that. I was actually proud. I was happy. I was like, man, if these guys become the biggest thing in hip hop, at least there's some sort of degree of separation that I got to them. I'm kind of sort of connected by default, and I had good relationships with the guys. So I never really, they were mentioning my name in songs. I was never really like, oh, this is a bad look. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm not gonna be mad being the killer priest of Wu-Tang. I'll be all right, bro. Like that's a good look for me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hate the fact that I'm in hip hop. Like I have a hip hop legacy
Yeah.
by some sort of minor association. I'll be okay. You ain't killing me with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always doing my own shit, looking at that. But I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. It hurts to see that it couldn't work itself out the way it should have worked out for them. And I look back at that and I see missed opportunities for the group like they do. And I hope they come back. I hope they do something.
Yeah,
I
that'd
hope
be
they
crazy.
yeah, I hope they can figure it out. Joe's clearly on his own path, and he's built a multimedia industry that he, a multimedia entity that he doesn't need the rap shit. But just for the rappers, the rappers that dudes were, and I'm not sure if you can ever rekindle that magic because these dudes didn't grow up together, nothing. But yeah, even if they did like a show, even if they did something cool, it sucks to me that we don't get this. And I know people are human; they don't get along. It sucks to me that we don't get to see a Fugees concert right now. Like that's fucking whack. That it would have been crazy during the pandemic that the Fugees come out and do ooh la la or some shit. Like we don't get to see that because of relationships with people. And I wish the
Yeah.
shit didn't end up like that. But that's the Slaughterhouse story. I've hardly ever said that version of it. There's a YouTube video of me talking about it, but
Mm-hmm.
not to this degree. But that's the story.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've seen like uh I want to say it was like they were putting out when they were like working on that project and they were all in a house wherever, there's a lot of like blogs and or vlogs, you know what I mean, of them talking about shit. And I think it's either that or interviews where I've seen them say basically like, and I don't think it was directly in regards to like why you're not in it or whatever, but essentially then be like, yeah, we're all four artists who were signed to major labels in the past, and you know what I'm saying. Now we're coming together as a group, like you know what I mean, blah blah blah.
And that's true. And look, that's true. And that was the managers, the four managers,
Narrative.
narrative. Yeah, they love that narrative. Joe didn't care for that narrative. To be honest with you, and I could sit here and say all these things. Joe didn't care about that. Joe, in fact, liked that I was. They didn't care that I was another Puerto Rican and I was from Brooklyn. He never looked at it like that. He was like, I like the fact that you're the young new cat who can get in and hang with dudes, and it's always going to be a challenge for you. Joe actually prepared me mentally and said, if you're a part of this, you're going to go through the hardest thing because you're less known, you're the outcast, you're the fucking smallest one, you're the guy outside, you're like in every facet, you're the guy who's the outsider. People always going to look at you as the guy that, so you're going to have to be ready for this. But Joe had so much belief in me. Joe was like, bro, you can do it. You're fucking good. You're dope. You play instruments. I know how crazy you are. So Joe was down. Crooked Eye one time told me, if you're not in it, I'm not in it. And before I got off the phone with Crooked, I said, Crook, I know we're friends. I know you have a sense of loyalty, but this is a huge look for you. So yeah, but that is true. The narrative was the manager's narrative. They told me on the phone. They said, we don't think this is our question. We don't think, what do you have to bring to this? What do you have to offer this? One of the things I said in the conversation, and I was young, I probably would have said it differently, but I was like, this song happened because of me. We're all on the song because yeah. And I can't imagine how in front of two managers or whoever, I can't imagine how that sounded to them. Where they're like, damn, this ego maniacal dude just flat out thinks he's there. Yeah.
That's that you know what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
me against the world young, like
Yeah.
don't give a fuck energy too
not
though.
not and not having no understanding that that was the wrong thing to say. I was responding like if you ask me, what are you doing? I mean, like I'm sitting down doing an interview. Like when they ask me, what do you have to, I'm like, we're on this phone because of me. What do you like?
Right.
That's what I have to offer. Yeah. So I didn't really think of it in the sense of me being, ballsy or just like fucking throwing, but I couldn't imagine now looking back, I didn't have the experience. I couldn't imagine back then like them hearing that response going, who is this little fucker
Right.
think he is? Like, yeah.
Because
So
now
I
like
got,
we understand that if you want, if you're trying to persuade or convince somebody, speak to their
it
self-interest.
ain't gonna work.
Don't hold
It ain't.
things up that you've done for them or any of that.
Yeah.
Like you want to speak to their future self-interest when trying to convince someone. So that's right.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
sit back and understand that now, but
Exactly. Yeah. So looking back, there's probably things that I said that probably wasn't in my favor, but also I wasn't not committed to being in it. So I can honestly sit here and say this: if I really fought to be in it, I could have been in it. Joe was an ally, Crip was an ally, and having Joe as an ally was the thing. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was a Joe Budden thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I really pushed for it and I tried to be in it, I would have been in it. And looking back, like you said, timing is everything. Had I been in a situation like I was with Fash along back then, I probably would have told Joe, I'm in this shit. Let's get it cracking and fuck the, you know what I mean? I would have done it. But at that time, I was like, I got my whole future ahead of me. I'm good. I don't need all of that. So, but, to me, it worked out because I went on a journey that served me in a sense. And I also don't want to do that bullshit where it's like, I don't have regrets because a lot of people are like, I don't have regrets. I would have never changed anything. It's like, no, there are some regrets. I wish I would have made that situation work better for me in a sense of branding. I just didn't have the mentality back then to
Mm-hmm.
make it to even think about that. You dig what I'm saying? Like I didn't
Yep.
even think about that. Getting on the album. I remember one time one of them was like, "We want you on the album, the Slaughterhouse album that came out," and I thought about it, and I didn't want to do it because I felt like I wanted to break away from that. Looking back, I probably I would have showed more interest in that. So there's a lot of things the world doesn't know that I had opportunities that I kind of detach myself from.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, like looking back, to be fair, to be honest, here's the truth. I'm a rapper. I'm an artist into some shit that was so unfathomable that I got to be on a Joe Budden album 2 years before that. Me and my homie was bumping Joe Budden on a road trip for 7 hours. Like I can't believe this guy is not the biggest thing. This is the craziest shit. We were listening to new music too, and
Crazy.
I got a chance to be on a Joe Budden album. I got a chance to be on a song with Royce the 5'9". I got a chance to work with Crooked Eye Joe. I got a chance to be a part of that record. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know my voice. I didn't know my delivery. I didn't know how I wanted to even do it. But yet, I every year that I doubted if I should keep doing this, I go back and go, when I didn't know what I was doing, I hung with those guys at that time. Like a lot of rappers don't have that point of reference to go, when I didn't know what I was doing, I was hanging with some of the best rappers on beats. Like that's a crazy thing to wake up to. That's rhyme of the year shit. Like people be like, oh, what happened to rhyme of the year? There's no rhyme of the year without Slaughterhouse. I just sent you rhyme of the decade. There's none of that without Slaughterhouse. There's none of this shit. So there's no Fashawn thinking I'm dope without Slaughterhouse, because every moment that I doubted if I'm good enough to do this, or why I'm even bothering, and why am I stressing myself? I should be consulting for SoundCloud. I could be doing so many other different things. But I look back and I go, hold up, you didn't know what you was doing, and yet you hung with these dudes. You're here. You're the
Right.
guy. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Just keep going at this. Yeah. So that was huge for me. I'm very grateful for that experience, and I love the Slaughterhouse first album. I was actually just bumping
Yeah.
it 2 weeks ago. The
Yeah.
first album.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on it, but I love it, and I'm so proud to hear it because I'm like, I know I played a role in this. It's small, it's minor, so there's really no bitterness. I can't hear the Shady album. I don't like that album. But the first Slaughterhouse album, I fucking love that album. I think Eminem ruined the Shady album because fucking Eminem,
I
I don't know
liked
what's
it.
gotten into.
It like when I heard it, I wanted to like it, so I liked it. But there's still songs on that I fuck with. But I think the second or the first album definitely has more of a
Yeah,
what they
it's
are
pure.
at the core. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, because M is detached, and naturally he's gonna be detached from everything. He just doesn't know what's going on. And the thing is even with Griselda shit, like Conway drops a record and he's like got Eminem on it. And I remember hearing the beat and I'm like, oh my God, M's gonna rap on this? Because Conway was already rapping. It was a Derringer beat. And then the
The
beat,
beat
and then
changes.
as soon as Eminem raps, I start hearing organs and fucking
Yeah.
choir sounds. And
Which
I'm like,
I
what you
fuck with, obviously post production, but it's like M, his whole thing. Like, here's the thing: he does sign great artists and has a great ear to the street. You know what I'm saying? From being the one really behind going and getting 50. You know what I'm saying? To Slaughterhouse, to
Griselda.
Boogie, Griselda, like all amazing artists who I think can really benefit from that. But what as far as Eminem, like when I hear his new music, whatever, I'm just like, he just needs to spend more time in the lab with them. Is he not in
Yeah,
the
exactly.
lab with them? Is
So
he in his own lab
so
working? And I'm like, he needs to
so
kind of vibe off of their energy and let them
So
drive the creative, and then get in and get a little bit more of that collaborate, like that trust shit we're talking about. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like borrow from them. It doesn't have to be the Eminem show. You know what I mean?
yeah. So here's my biggest thing with M, and as how he signs artists, because 50, I was distributing mixtapes at the time. 50 and Sha Money could say it, D Prosper could say it. 50 just did everything what 50 wanted to do. He was very Cam'ronish with it. Like, so 50 was just like, oh, Dre don't want to mix this track. He's taking too long. I'll just give it to Flex and Flex will play it. Shady, that label never seen anything like 50 where he was like, I don't need a mixed version. I got on doing unmixed shit. What do I care about your fucking song? So he'll push Wankster himself. He'll spend his own radio money. So 50 was a guy who he wasn't relying. He was doing shit Eminem wouldn't do. He was spending his own money on his own product. So 50's an outlier in that sense. But like, it hurts me because I don't want to say hurt, but I'm bothered. I just feel like he didn't do justice to Slaughterhouse the
Yeah,
way he
I
should
agree.
have.
Yeah.
And I also felt like Boogie too. Like Boogie's brand was
Yeah, I
really
agree.
doing well. Boogie's brand was doing really well.
I'm a
And here's the
huge
weird
fan.
thing,
I love Boogie.
bro. Boogie dropped a single, and I was like, oh, they're gonna give him a push. And the day his single came out, or maybe like 7 hours later, Kamikaze came out. And I was like, why would you squash your artist single? I mean,
Wow.
on the same day. I'm not
That's
sure.
insane. I didn't know
It
that.
makes no sense. I'm not sure M even knew that Boogie shit came out. I just think he called and said, put it out. No one said anything. And they were like, oh, Eminem wants his album out. And just said, the album's mixed and mastered, put the cover out, it's done. Get Kamikaze out. But he's not even thinking about Boogie. So he kind of squashed Boogie. That was weird. And then with Griselda, they're
And
just
the
ready to
Boogie
get the fuck
project was
out.
fire, bruh.
Incredible,
Like,
incredible.
yeah.
And and the same thing with Griselda. They're ready to get the fuck out of there because they're just like things just move too slow. And I just think that, you know, to M's credit, he surrounded himself with a good team like Paul and all of that. Shade 45 was in his idea, investing in all of this is Paul's shit. Paul and everybody else around him. And whenever you get around anybody who has some sort of knowledge of what happens over there, M is not waking up thinking of no business, no nothing. He's just a super underground. He's the same guy that did shit for Ruckus. He's just trying to rap. He's just that's all he's doing. He's not thinking about, oh, what should I invest in? Should I put my money in Bitcoin? Should I go, should I invest in Tesla? He's not thinking of none of that. So I think that's the biggest issue I've had with M was he finds the talent, but then somehow, some way, like the talent tends to kind of get buried under that umbrella. And it's like, sorry, this is just me. And I if you live my life, if you rewind my life, and I get to be Eminem, with who I am now as a person, even 10 years ago, no talent would ever get squashed under me. It just would not happen. And you have to have a sense of accountability when you're in that position and you put artists under you. I fucking got Cambada. No one knew who Cambada was. I was putting him on records, and Cam's arrow's only gone up. I never fucking squashed Cam. Cam's getting bigger and bigger. Now he's doing his own thing. We started out just doing everything together. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
imagine somebody being around me and their brand just going like getting squashed because
Mm-hmm.
I'm
It's
doing
hard to
nothing. Like I
escape
don't.
that shadow too. Like, Eminem cast a monolithic shadow. Like,
Oh,
50 is
thank
like the
you, man.
only, like again that outlier that became the biggest rapper under that, and went diamond multiple all this shit. uh but that definitely plays a role, I think, in like is seeking shit that we love, that he loves, that raw shit, and to put it on that stage. But for example, with the Slaughterhouse album, it just seemed to be like, well, we got to make this more palatable, where I think there's some learning from, whoever's running shit, the team, whatever, as far as like letting Griselda do Griselda. You're not gonna get Griselda and then, what I'm saying, like try to make them palatable for anything. Like they're their
Right,
own thing and their own entity. And that approach of letting them go in their own creative way, because their marketing is genius. Their branding, their art, their everything is genius. And so the sense of like letting them do that and not trying to fit them in sort of a box, I think is, to their credit, something that is something that may have been a learning curve after Slaughterhouse, even.
yeah. 100%. I'll say this real quick. Jay-Z signed a bunch of cats. The biggest person he signed that outside of Kanye, and Kanye did a lot on his own, but Cameron really took advantage of that opportunity. And if you watch that Drink Champ shit, he put an office in a storage closet. He did this, he did that. Like he went and got Jewels to deal with Def Jam, and then Dame that because Dame took to didn't want to fuck with Jewels, and then Dame's like, wait a minute, what? And then Dame's like, all right, put Rockefeller on it, yada yada yada. So like Cam was making moves. So like 50 Cam, you got guys
Cam
like
is
that
like that from that cloth too. You
exactly.
see
You
that
like 50,
interview where he's like talking about how Jay took him off some song or whatever,
so he did
deleted
the
his
same
verse, so
thing.
he
So
got
he
him
did.
on the remix to
Oh boy,
oh
oh
boy,
boy.
yeah, yeah, and then just deleted the all right now
Yeah.
delete
So
it
yeah,
just to do it. Like I love the
and here
pettiness.
and here's the thing, like you get a Cam, you get a Fifth, and you get a West Side. West Side
Yeah,
is a mover. He's a shaker. So it's like if you have that, and then you got like groups like all these other cats and stuff, and like Boogie and Slaughterhouse. I don't look at them like they're gonna do what Cam Fifth and West Side would do. They're not gonna be so autonomous and so administrative. Like there's an administrative genius to like what 50 does and Cam does and what even West Side does. And not every artist has that administrative type of approach and,
one
and how
hundred
to do
percent.
the not just the music aspect but the outside. Like just having the idea of Cameron when he was on Drink Champs and he said, and then Dame didn't want to fuck with Jewels, so I went to Def Jam directly and cut Jewel and got Jewel signed. I'm like, yeah, that's some administrative shit to just go, I know I'm signed to these guys, but this guy, I can get him a deal. He went and got Jewel's a deal he didn't even get himself. He went underneath the company that was underneath the company, but then cut a deal for his artist to a bigger company. That's and 50's done weird shit like that. So I think that to, with this being said, like I just think that M is not an administrative guy,
Mm-hmm.
and when he signs guys, it would to me it would have been sharp for him to get somebody and go, okay, let me get the administrative guy to just kind of just keep a watchful eye and let them do this. And like you said, let them be them. But whatever, man, that's neither here nor there. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing them. I just feel like, I hate to see talent get squashed on the talent. But look, you're right. There is a crazy shadow that's casted over artists, but that didn't stop Cameron. That didn't stop 50. And that didn't stop West Side. And
Yeah.
West Side's out of that fucking, they never stopped shaking and moving. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, one hundred
it is.
percent. And even this, I think that's a good transition because something I wanted to chop it up with you about in regards to like, major labels, independent, and everything is something that we've talked about years ago, and we also kind of rehashed in the conversation we had recently. Is just the model that you release music under for years, which is your own subscription based direct to fan approach with Audio Trip 2. I feel like no one was really doing that. You had like the Nipsey, when Nipsey came out with Crenshaw and did the limited run of for $100 a piece of 1,000, whatever it was. That was like groundbreaking at the time, you know what I mean? And I feel like it was around that same time frame you were already piecing together this Audio Trip experience, and I just want to hear your
Yeah.
breakdown of that for people who might not know what
Yeah.
because it's hard even to
Yeah.
find your music lightweight right now, like
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
streaming. It's
Yeah.
video content, etc. But it's because you had this very direct artist to fan
Yeah.
approach and cut that
Yeah.
middleman out.
Yeah, I was talking to Slug of Atmosphere one time, and he was telling me he was watching these guys who were touring and that hadn't had really big social media followings, but they were selling it. Hey, sit down. And they had a really big social media following. Hey, they had a really big social media following, and he was like, and he was like, these guys are selling tickets, and I'm like, how are they selling tickets? He goes, well, they're doing what like these comedians are doing. They're getting a bunch of email lists, and then they're using that email list to then throw the tickets to their audience and doing so on and so forth. And at the time, I was just like, that's pretty cool. Like, so how are they getting the email list? He goes, well, when they put out a song and they put out stuff on the blogs, they go download this, but then if you to get this, you need to give us your email or whatever. So I thought that was pretty sharp. I didn't know how long that was gonna last because we were already heading towards the social media thing. But then I heard Kevin Hart was doing it. Then I heard like Louis C.K. was doing it. Then I heard Louis C.K. was just emailing people, and he would sell out a show or sell content directly to his audience that had no connection to any distributor. He sold a special on his
Right.
website, and he generated like hundreds of thousands of dollars just sending an email out going, "Hey guys, want to buy this?" He didn't know if it would work, and he made a lot of bread. Now, I'm not Louis, but I was like, you know what? I've been generating emails. Let me just expand on that. So every show I did, every time I leak content, every blog I did, I would say, if you want the bonus record, put my, click here. And then all it was just an email thing that we would get. So by the time 2016 hit, I had already had like 5 to 10,000 emails. I took advantage of the blogs, which is pretty interesting to think. I got a bunch of people to give me more emails than I got them to follow me on a social media platform, which is hella weird. So like I recognize like my blog audience was just audio related. They didn't want to look at what I did and during the day. They weren't trying to follow me. Maybe they didn't even have that. So I was like, okay, cool. And then when Facebook 2016 Facebook started using advertising, I started taking a bunch of e-commerce courses online, and I started learning some things, seeing what like the comedians were doing and so on and so forth. And I took it a step further. And at the time, I just used Facebook advertising in my favor, and I would just go find lookalike audiences, so on and so forth. And I put out a video. I didn't know what it was going to do. I put out a video called Monitoring, and I remember, a lot of, so people now know Ilmac gave me the idea at the end to turn stupid on monitoring. He was like, "You should do it that way," and to this day, I'm grateful because I didn't know how to end the song. He kind of told me how to end it. But when I put the
I
video got
forgot
it on
about that.
Facebook, yeah, it got like 350,000 views on Facebook, and a lot of I didn't know what the views meant, but I knew what the shares meant, and I knew what the comments meant. And Facebook to me, there was no eggs. Everybody's names on there. This I was like, oh shit, this is kind of intense. So I started retargeting those people, going, listen, if you like this song, would you like to give me your email so I could send you an album? And I started just collecting emails through that. People who didn't even end up liking the page just keep giving me their emails because they wanted the content. So I kept doing that. I dropped a video called Neogenesis, the Rhyme of the Year acapella. These things got over 700, 800,000 views on Facebook. Now, I wasn't lit on YouTube. I wasn't lit on Instagram, but that was working for me. I saw the thousands of comments. And it was kind of weird to see it so privatized almost, where I couldn't share that success with like the regular people I saw in the industry, because I would have to tell them, yeah, I just got all these views on Facebook. They're like, what does that mean? It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean I'm on YouTube over here, so I don't know what you're talking about. And it was hard to kind of like even talk to labels and go, hey, I think I can generate some sales. Do you want to sign this, and do you want to do business with me? I think I have something here. They never got it. So shout out to my man Circa, who runs a company called Entrepreneur. He's probably the most influential Dame. What's Hobson's business partner? Damien. I forgot his last name. Is it Ritter? I think. So the guy who started Funk Volume with Hobson, he knows about him. This Damien called me like a year after I did my album and started asking me for advice. The motherfucker cut a deal with Warner Brothers 4 years prior. So I was like, oh my God, I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? Like clearly this shit that I'm doing is working. So
Yeah.
yeah, long story to short, I ended here. I put out Audio Trick 2, and it was I signed a contract with my fans. I said for 5 years, which the contract ends this year, so I can actually put it up on streaming sites. I said, you'll never have to worry about this coming out on streaming sites, but if you get it directly from me, I'll send it to you for free. All I need is your email and your phone number. They sent it to me. They got it for free. And then one day I said, hey, do you want to buy a CD for $25? Do you want to, and oh, look, all artists listening to this, if you can get an email or you can get a phone number from a fan, you then can send them an offer, and it's up to them to take it. Give them free content. They're not buying it to listen to it. Give them free content, give them everything for free, and then go, hey, by the way, do you want this piece of merch? And yeah, man, we made enough money that I was like, wow, I don't even think I need to sign with anybody. I remember calling you, telling you, yo, Mac, this is the way to go. This is the thing you should be doing. And it was hard to stick with it. I did it for 2 years. It worked really well for me, but it was hard to stick with it because it's an administrative fucking life you have to
Right.
live. You
Right.
have to be in that shit day in, day out. And when my dad got sick, I couldn't handle it. And any e-commerce person knows, if you haven't set up an automated system or you're not in it every other day doing the work, the business is gonna drop a little bit. So it was
Mm-hmm.
a little bit I learned a lot from it, and I'm still going to utilize it. But what that allowed me to do is when Fashawn and myself were pitching a deal for, again, any artist or any about aspiring artist listening to this, dude, when was like, yo, I don't we could do he came up with the group name called La Casa Blanca. We got a guy named DJ Tambi to design the cover, who's this famous tattoo artist who won Ink Master twice. He became a fan of mine. I don't know how. I sent him my shit and I said, yo, fam, would you design this cover? He didn't even charge me. He designed it. I said, boom, we got this huge guy to do the cover, me and Fash. So I'm pitching this shit to all these labels. And then finally, I sat with a distributor, and the distributor was like, well, we don't mind doing a one-time thing with you, but we don't know if we want to do a label situation with you. And I said, well, look, Fash has this on social media and I have this. And they were like, wait, what? You got a list of how many purchasers? And then when I sent them my list of purchasers, I opened my books to them in the meeting. They looked at it. The value that had was so much bigger than the 4 measly 1,000 followers I had on Instagram, because they were like, how do you got more purchasers than followers in IG? And that meant more to them than fucking any Instagram thing for
Yeah.
them, because yeah, and they saw that I was utilizing Facebook, and they just said, do you want to just be this, or do you want to, can we think of ideas to make you big on TikTok and Instagram? I said, I'm all in, whatever y'all think. They said, cool, and we got a label situation off of it. So that's kind of how the direct the fan story goes. And man, I'm glad that I was delusional and almost egotistical enough to think I'm just gonna do this, but also it was a sense of I didn't want to give my shit to nobody. I trusted it in my own hands, and I just wanted to do it that way. So I'm glad, because I own all my music. I told you that the
Yeah.
other day we spoke on the phone. I
Mm-hmm.
said, yo, a lot of people don't know ownership. You hear all these artists now. Taylor Swift is what money does she need? But she's talking about ownership. There's something to having ownership of something, no matter how rich you are. There's a sense of having ownership to something, because if you have that ownership, you can do things with it, and nobody can tell you no with the things that you want to do. And that's the thing. And now we're getting in the day and age where you want to do things with your content, even if it's 5 years out. You may want to do something with it. Imagine if I tell you, no, Ilmac, you can't redo it. No, you want to do what's the clay pigeons? Is that what was it called?
Yeah, I know.
It
I'm
was
called Clay Pigeons.
Clay Pigeons, yeah. That fucking album was fire. Imagine you was like, yo, I got this, I have this, I want to do this. No, no, you can't. Nah, we don't want you to. So it's like I never wanted to leave my shit in somebody else's hands. That's
Yeah.
kind of why I did it that way.
Yeah, no, it's on multiple levels. It's really smart because even like you're talking about value of purchases, emails, contacts, numbers, whatever the case is, and these direct transactions, and having the information to be able to reach back out to those people, like that means so much more than followers, because the big sell on followers is that's your reach, right? That's your reach of potential. That's only a potential reach, and then from that potential reach is only a fraction of that ends in a transaction, right? So
Right.
even now, more so with the way the algorithms work across these social media platforms, that number is becoming more and more meaningless, because unless you're paying to actually reach those people, your reach is being bottlenecked anyways by the algorithm. You're only going to reach 1 to 5% or 10, whatever it is, of those actual followers. They won't be served your content automatically, because then from that, the people that are, there's only a fraction of those interactions that will end with the actual transaction of a play, a purchase, a download, whatever it is. But then you have, more valuable than that, you have these contacts of people that have actually purchased, people who signed up, people who gave you their
Right.
information with intent of a transaction to happen. And so that's so much more valuable than this fractional potential reach that then becomes a fractional potential of
Crazy.
transaction.
Yeah, you see people with 300,000 followers, and their 300,000 followers aren't conditioned to learn how to purchase or follow suit with these people. So they can't even get a Spotify listen through these 300,000 followers. We did a show in Toronto. Shout out to my man Soldier Bless. We did a show in Toronto with this kid who, I don't want to bury his name and shit. He's a good kid, but he was popping in Toronto, blonde hair, doing his thing. and somebody probably already knows who he is, but he was bubbling, and he had like 400,000 followers, and every video he would post, I don't know if they were using ads, he would get like 200,000 views off the video with like maybe like 1,000 comments. So in Toronto, Little's the general, rest in peace. Pat Stay knows him very well. Organic knows him very well. So he's a very well known Toronto cat. He passed away 2 years ago. Good homie of mine for years. I helped him get features and shit. So one day he was like, "Yo, I have connections with this dude. Do you want to go? Do you want to do a show with him? He'll bring a lot of people there." We did a show at a spot called Lee's Palace in Toronto. Organic came to see me, and when Organic walked in the room, he goes, "How the fuck did you get this place?" I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "I've been trying to do a fucking battle here." He's like, "Come, come." And he walks me into the spot of his vision of how to do a battle. And he's like, "I can't fucking get this place for shit." Now, this is fucking Organic. Like, he couldn't get this venue. I don't know why. And he's like, "This shit's pissing me off." But he was very proud of me of just, he saw that there were people there, people coming up to me. I was talking to Organic. People were trying to get me to sign their shit. Like, they wouldn't get a chance after the show. Organic's like, "How the fuck did you do this?" And I kind of let him know a couple things. Littles came and we all talked. And again, rest in peace, Littles, really good guy. He's the one that got that artist there. Organic had to leave, whatever. I do my show, and and there's like 200 people there, and just going crazy. 250 people. I think we was in the downstairs version, and we're doing this. There's two floors, and there's 250 people just spazzing, going crazy. I go to the merch table, and everybody's coming to me for me to sign merch, and mainly a lot of these tickets were sold through the model I'm telling you. And bro, the dude comes to me, he's like, "Yo, can you tell your fans to watch him?" Everybody left. And this guy was bubbling on IG. And I had 2,000. I wasn't even using Instagram, as you know. I barely used that shit back then. People would send me DMs, and I'd be like, "I don't use Instagram. Like, I don't
Right.
barely on it." And he couldn't. He had nobody there, and he was tired. It was his city, and yet I came in, this underground fucking rapper who's got an album out that's not even on fucking Spotify. He's hitting Spotify numbers. He's hitting big Instagram numbers and couldn't sell tickets. And at that very moment, I called Slug the next day and I said, "Thank you, because you showed me how to get something that has a value that I can actually stare at. And it's like you said, I can monetize off that value. Whereas this fucking cat is just spending, spending, spending. He couldn't even sell tickets, and he didn't even have merch with him. And I had to go on stage, tell my fans to watch his show. Anybody who was in Toronto at that time, um, I was at the show. I had to tell my fans, "Yo, stick around for him. He's fire." I had to act like I fucked with his show for like 10, 15 minutes. I had to stay on the stage to keep my fans. And I slid off halfway because I was like, "That's enough. I'm going to get my merch going." And I went to the merch table. And again, everybody left him. He cut his show, he cut his show off. Littles that day or the next day, "We got to talk business." Because he was thinking of working with that cat and said, "What are you doing? I want to help the shit you're doing." You know what I mean? So that's one of the moments for me that I was like, "Wow, like this shit has some value." Not every show in Canada, I toured Canada. Not every show in Canada was that successful. I did do shows that kind of flopped, like in weird spaces like that, Sudbury and Danbury. They'd be like 40 people, 30 people. They would flop. But for every one of those, there's a Guelph. Me and Recognize for Mayday, we did a show at fucking Guelph. It killed. Packed house. I sold over $1,000. I did a show with Webby and Mercules in Edmonton. There was 1,500 people there. I fucking, shout out to my man J Reds or anybody who was in Edmonton that night. I fucking cracked like $7,000, $8,000 of merch. Webby's people were like, "What the fuck? Like, how did you sell or who are you?" And it was just like, just the idea of, I have all these emails and I have all these things, and I go, "Who's from Alberta? Who's from this? Who's from that?" Targeting ads in Facebook and utilizing this, and it was working. So
That's
yeah, it's
crazy.
like I
Smart.
didn't mean to go on that rant.
No,
I
no,
didn't
no.
mean to go on that rant, but when you was talking about numbers, that's what that's right
Yeah.
there. That's the first example I ever got that I was like, "Damn, like what did those numbers even do for this kid?" Like
Right.
nobody's there for him. It's
Yeah,
weird.
it's the physical manifestation of, the value of, the direct connection that you established with the direct to fan model, as opposed to, the being as reliant on social
Yes.
media. That's a good
And
example.
it's not taboo, and it's not taboo anymore. Everybody's trying to do it. RJ Payne's doing it now, so it's not even that taboo anymore. RJ Payne's turning deals down to do this, and he's doing what I was doing on a much bigger scale. So it's not taboo. A lot of artists are going this route. I don't want to say who, but Redman, outside of Redman's doing something similar right now. And there's a couple of other artists that are leaving labels that I know of that have contacted me because they know I did this, because they've taken that course and see that I'm an example in the course, and I shouldn't be on the phone with them. Like, why are you talking to me? And they're just trying to adopt the model. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
there's like even there's more tools. Like you, when you did it, like built that machine digitally, you know, that e-commerce machine, you had to build that from scratch. And now there's tools like Patreon and these things that kind of fall in that same line. I mean, honestly, like I had a conversation with Chase Hiking like last summer where I told him, like, you know, after we finish this season's series, you know, with Drop in Winter, I told him I'm gonna go one of two ways with the music, and I'm not sure yet, and I'm still not sure. I'm like, I'm either gonna go play the game and focus more on putting at least one piece of content out a week, digitally, audio, whatever it is, and then have like 3 subsets, you know, of content around that. Like, you know, it's not just a song and a video, it's previewing the song in the studio and a TikTok of that. Then it's, you know, the video or whatever. Then there's the performance, you know, and maximizing my content output to really play the algorithm game and be in people's faces and all that. Or it's going the complete other way and not putting anything out on streaming platforms and doing it 100%. You have to be in the inner circle. You have to be on the Patreon. Only put music out through this way, you know, and make it more of an exclusive.
Can I say something? Can I say something? And this is live. Hopefully we get to record this and you could be like, oh my God, you could do both. Not many can. And here's why. You do enough content and you have enough your back catalog is just as extensive that you have ownership of. You can actually do both. So you can do exclusive videos for albums that you dropped 2-3 years ago, and they're kind of still lit. They may not be the best representation of what you're currently doing, but they're still dope. Like me and Nestle could shoot a video for Girl vs. World next week. I could put it out whether for my fans and they'll all go crazy. I don't think it's the best representation of what I'm doing now, but it'll still be dope. I could do that with a couple of artists. You can do both, and I'm doing both, and here's why. I have enough content. I can drop this and I can do a deluxe version that is for everybody, and I could also do a deluxe version that's only for a specific group of people of hardcores, because I have that much music. Same thing post the album. I was on the phone with the distributors literally yesterday, and they thought I was crazy. And I said, look, when the album comes out 2-3 weeks later, I want to drop a single every week. They're like, what? And they're like, so you have enough content to do the deluxe for everyone, the deluxe for the director fan, and just exclusive with exclusivity and no streaming sites. And then you also have enough to drop a single for the next fucking 3 months. I'm like, yeah, I do. They're like, what? And that's not even included the fast shit. So the fact that you're such a worker, the fact that I'm such a worker, the fact that we can get something done quick, boom, keep it moving, or the fact that even like the exclusive shit, when before Patreon, I had a subscription service. I would give them unreleased. I would give them ideas. I'd be like, yo, I got this idea. Here's a verse and a hook. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And people were still subscribing because they thought that was lit enough. So somebody like you could do, I wouldn't suggest this to 95% of the people I know, because they just don't have the ability to do the output. They don't have the ability to maintain both. But if you can build some sort of the administrative organization and you can get that down with somebody who could do it, you got the output, and you're fucking, how do I say it? You're a fucking maniac. Like, you're capable of fucking doing all of it at both. Like, I watch interviews with Russ and I see how crazy he is of how much catalog he gets down. He thinks like us. He's just like, it's easy. I can just get in there and do a fucking song. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, so you're good. You could do both of them. And I think that's the thing that for artists like us, Slug of Atmosphere can't do that. He just doesn't do enough music to warrant these even suggesting you could do both. You know what I mean? Yeah. But Cambada can't do that. He doesn't do enough music to justify doing both things. But somebody like you and me,
See, I think the biggest
This
thing,
is easy.
yeah, the biggest thing, it is the music and all that comes easy for me. It's always been everything after, and you know the work of it, the promotion, and how you put it, the administrative side. I need, if I'm not, you know, administratively brained. You know what I'm saying? I don't. I'm like I'm creative. You know what I mean? And there's a level, and I've learned a lot of skills, and even like editing clips a little bit here and there, and you know, but I definitely put more energy, and it's more efficiently used in the creative side. But I mean, example of that is I was running a Patreon for. I mean, it's been going for a few years now, but when I first was doing it, I was on top of it. And any piece of visual content or audio content, whatever, I'd filter through Patreon and it'd stay there for a few days exclusive. And there was a machine going, or there was a consistent, you know, output behind it. And, you know, I got up towards, you know, 800, 1,000 a month, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Now I'm like sitting around, I don't know, a handful of people that just like supporting without any reward because I'm not putting nothing out.
Yeah, because the apathy had the same issue, the sustainability, the like maintaining it, the maintenance.
And it's not even the maintenance, because it's not even the content I create, but it's like having to get the extra edit or the extra thing and put it down.
So that's why. So this is why I think you could do both. You need to have, and obviously it's easier said than done, but I know a guy who knows a guy, whatever. But I just think that you have to have somebody who that's their shit. And it's like you completely compartmentalize your shit, and you're like, all right, I know how to do this. I know how to do, because here's the thing that I have. I found the people to do this right now with and who to collab with. But here's the ability I have. I know how to start something. I know how to finish it. I know how to get it done by a time. I know how to do something. I know how to keep people's attention. I know how to get new fans. I know how to keep my fans interested. And I know how to release videos. I know how to shoot videos. I know how to get them done. I know what I want when I get them done. I know a realistic time frame. So if you tell me you got to have 15 songs done, which, you know, whatever, I'm just saying, you got to have 15 songs done by a certain amount of time. I know how to do that and how to organize my week to know how to do what and record and get it done. I have all of that down. So your strength is your strength. But once you find the people that you can go, yo, I need to find somebody who manages. I have somebody who's going to manage the direct to fan stuff, and it's somebody who I work with in that space. And then the new shit is this distribution company is, you know, we're working in conjunction with them. But I have enough of an understanding to in both ways to go, I want a little bit of this. Like, look, dude yesterday was telling me about TikTok. I've never even been on TikTok. I don't have the app. And he was like, this is how I'm going to break your TikTok videos up. And I'm like, cool, because I can't even say add an idea. I'm like, he's like, I want you to be the Tekashi character, walk around and do this. I could shoot the content, but how to upload it on TikTok, you're talking to the wrong person. So to me, it's like, if I find somebody who knows how to do shit like that, I just stay out of their way. And I'm like, go ahead, man, you do it. Like my man, so if you could find those people, you know what I mean? Like you're Ilmac, bro. Like, and that's something sometimes we forget. You should be able to find somebody to do it. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to make a podcast about that. But you're capable. But you're capable of doing.
That's both. Big. I mean, growing the stream is something I've been needing to do, and in order to do it, you're not just gonna grow by consistently streaming. You have to take pieces of that content and put it elsewhere across YouTube, social media platforms, and direct people, hey, come here. Because across YouTube, like, you get the discoverability, but you don't get the interaction. Wow. All that to say, I finally am like focused on like, okay, I need someone who can turn around edits, I learned a little bit of editing like on iMovie on my phone, and like those clips I've been posting, like I just did that, you know, and I can learn new shit. I mean, I started a TikTok because I wanted to grow the stream, and I posted consistently for about 2 weeks, like a video every couple days, and then it's just like, all right, I don't feel like editing new videos, or I don't feel like going and finding the timestamps from this stream where I caught that crazy, you know, team wipe in Warzone. I don't want to, and it just becomes too overwhelming, and then where I just like stop. And it's the same thing with Patreon, where I can learn it and then do it, but really sticking with it when it's outside of what really inspires me, and the maintenance is not my thing.
That's not my forte either. That's why Jay had Dame and fucking Fifth had Shot, but I tell you another thing you did too that's dope. You even this shit. Like I don't even know how to do what you're doing now. So like I'm gonna have to learn like the ins and outs. This is how terrible I thought you were at this. I thought you were doing this at Avocados Crib. I had no idea. So in my head, I thought Ilmac's not doing any of this. He just probably goes to Avo's house. Avo does everything for him and yada yada yada. So just the fact that you're even doing this right here, I'm like, this is making me be like, damn, I can do this. You know what I mean? Like I need to figure this out, get the mic, do this, get the setup and all that. Cause it looks harder. Like what you're doing here looks, I can be doing this. I can sit in front of a mic and do what you're doing. Yeah. And it seems too hard for me, but just this very thing that you're doing right now as we're doing this, I'm like, I think I could do what he's doing if he figured this out. And Jin.
You definitely can. In all fairness, it's definitely, I've learned how to do this and everything, but I still am all the time reaching out to people like Connor, who's in the chat, and Eddie I, who, was my stream guy who put me up on how to set it up and settings, and my dude Dro the Arrow, who's also in the chat, who's a mod. Like, I definitely just reach out to people. Like, I'm still cavemanish with it, but through the process of asking these questions, have learned how to run a stream, how to, and shout out Connor, he's the one who did the overlay and showed me how to, make it to where our faces are in the bubble, all that. But yeah, I think that even serves your point more, that outsourcing according to your strengths and weaknesses and finding people who kind of offset that is super key in this shit. I think that's like the big takeaway of it.
Yeah, 100%. I gotta charge this phone. Give me one.
Yeah. Where's mine? I'm gonna grab some water real quick, chat. I'm out of coffee and Huel, you know what I'm saying? So I just need to grab some water real quick. I'm gonna play this. And then again, I got like one or two more questions, and then I want to take questions from the chat, or if there's anything that we may have missed that you want to hear us talk about. Put your thoughts in the chat. I'll be right back.
Blueprint. Now I could probably coach Carter. I go harder than most of my vote models and old partners. Spit out quotes from God. Soon as I clear my throat, chakra. Becoming the goat's my soul mantra. I go where most thought they couldn't and then go farther. I'm in Cuba, studying Shay's whole squadron, bumping Tupac songs with Machiavellian postmortem. I could showboat on them like globetrotters and swag out, but I chose to honor Herc in this whole genre. But you should get rich or die trying. I spike tyrants, any snake sidewind, then I sideswipe them. We need leaders in times flying, so why are you designed for this assignment? Yeah, look, I'm a refined hybrid of every top 5 dead or alive rhymer. That's clear as hindsight. Imagine if I grinded. I'm redefining heights every time I ain't writing or writing a beat, punning Biggie in heaven or high-fiving. I'm unwinding close mind, succeed on my worst try. One line from my song that calcified your third eye. Word I heard it in every melody, Lennon sung. Spun some vinyls, reversed it into the message sunk. And
how much longer we got?
What was that?
Pipe down, ready?
How much time we got?
I got all the time, but it's really just depending on how much time you got.
I got like 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right, cool. That's no issue. So let me try. I'm trying to find something real quick. See if this is it. Hold on. Never mind. Okay. There's a couple things I want to do.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask real quick, and we don't got to go real in depth with this, but someone in chat had even said they didn't realize like you were so tapped into battle rap, you know what I'm saying, in that culture. One, and that we don't got, we can keep this relatively shorter, like some of your best performances, your favorite performances, battle rap performances.
Ever?
Yeah.
Not because you're here. I tell you this all the time. Your third verse, Big K. Even just your whole battle. But like that's one of my favorite. Hollow the Dons too. That's one of. We always talk about how good of a performance that battle was. I think it's a good contrast in styles, and it's also Big K gives you a lot to throw back at you. Hollow versus Charlie Clips. I fucking love that battle.
just
Hollow
just
versus
the
Charlie. Come on, bro. That
yeah
shit's one of the best by far. That shit's insane.
yeah.
Charlie
This
Clips never really recovered from that fully.
yeah, I don't think so.
And then
You
say
versus
one
K,
more.
Hollow versus Clips, Briz versus Ars is a go-to. Uh,
Yeah.
I love that battle. Briz versus Ars. Um, Diz and Solomon. I like to watch that battle
Yeah, we
sometimes just
just
because
did
of
a
the.
watch for that recently at Avos.
Uh, yeah, that's such a good one. I was there when Geechee battled Ars, and I really like how Geechee performed in that battle. I really like that battle a lot. Iron and Rum. And then just to go to some classics, like back in the day ones, that I really fuck with as well. I really like to watch like some of the classic battles. I like to watch like Dumb and Tantrum
Oh
sometimes from
yeah,
time to
yeah,
time,
yeah.
just to see where it came from.
That was like the first real big like viral video as far as battle
Yeah,
rap and grind time that really kind of took off.
yeah. Pass and Hollow. I like to watch that. But yeah, those battles, and I'll sometimes catch myself watching a weird battle like Illusion Z versus Fresco or something. You know what I mean? Like I'll catch myself. I'll catch myself like you could just leave Dino outside. You could just leave Dino outside. But I sometimes just Illusion Z or Fresco. I'll watch like a weird battle like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those would be the ones. And honestly, I like to watch quantum physics a lot too.
Oh, QP is amazing. Yeah. He brings an energy that's insane.
Yeah.
So we had a question on Twitter, and in advance, my apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I think it's Yaman Al Rawi on Twitter asked, can he get Mad Flex on a beat already since they're buddies?
Yeah, Flex has that idea. Whenever Flex starts to make music, I'm here. He rapped on the Alchemist beat on Twitter, and he got a lot of love for it.
Yeah.
And he just Flex just don't be in his music bag. You know what I mean? But
I know he's a busy man too and got a lot going on.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'm down for that. Flex is one of my closest friends, so I'll do anything for my friend.
Yeah. And then the second part of what they asked on Twitter was, and the obvious, does he have an interest in battling? How well does he think he'll adapt to the format, if so?
I think I'll adapt well, but I want to battle Ilmac, but I think he'll 3-0 me.
Yo, that's a funny thing because there was a small period of time, I feel like it was around like 2016, around when I was preparing for Pat Stay, that actually got brought up seriously by, I forget who. I don't remember if it was a league or some one-off event, or maybe it's Blackout or something. I can't remember.
Gannick asked me if I do it, who would I battle? And I said you. And I said, I've only battled Ilmac. And you and I already talked about it. And we said, if we do battle, you said, let's not take this let's just rhyme. Like, let's come up with crazy concepts and ideas, but also be like, palatable. And like, at the same time, like kind of mix all these things and challenge ourselves, but also go in. And I just remember thinking, it would be an art. Because me and Chilla's always wanted to battle me. And Chilla said he always wanted to battle me because it could be like an art thing. Cortez randomly called me one day, asked me to battle him. Lex called me one time, asked me if I'd battle Chris Rivers on iBattles. And I'm like, I don't want to battle Chris Rivers. But yeah, I wouldn't do it now. I don't want to battle. But at that time, I remember
you're talking about being Pun's successor plus Clutch under pressure. You know what I'm saying? Chris Rivers like, all right. Let's battle for that title. Let's battle for that title then. Pun's successor.
For real. If you want to do that, yeah. But yeah, I entertained it. So anybody knows here, Chilla Jones could confirm. We got called to do Ether, and Lush entertained the idea, and because Chilla Jones went on YouTube, and I think I want to say one of the battles, maybe Bud and Hollow, something happened, and they asked Chilla, "What do you think about industry guys battling?" And Chilla said, I don't think a lot of the guys can do well, but the guys who I think who can write and understand the format, because of me listening to their music, is King Los, Nino Bless, and he named like 3 or 4 guys. And he goes, I like to see those guys do it, and I would like to battle. That's what he said in the interview. And I thought, damn, Chilla, like, I thought we were cool. Like, you just came out and said that. I never even knew he had the intentions for it. But Chilla's smart. Because he knew he would get into, like, people go, oh, let's see if we can set that up. And Lush One was one of those. But obviously, the crazy debacle that Ether was in so many ways. But it was entertained, so much so that Chilla and me talked about time, talked about how to do it, the way to go about it, and then eventually the money. But then Lush One never followed up.
Yeah, that was a crazy event and crazy set of circumstances for sure. If we did ever do it, what we'd have to do is like do it on our own and kind of inject it into this NFT format that we're talking about of direct to fan, like incorporated in that model. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, well, for sake of promotion, we'll give King of the Dot one round of it if they give this much. But then if you want to see the whole battle, you got to go direct to Audio Trip. You know what I'm saying? Enter the audio trip.com or some shit like that. You know what I mean? If that could work, and then we could really have the freedom to create it all the way, or 360.
NFT too.
Yeah, that'd be wild for sure. So I guess the last thing I if you're in a position to do this, is I wanted to peer pressure you into, we've been talking about a lot of rap, you know what I mean, and I wanted to not only hear a verse, hear some bars, but the last thing you wrote in your phone, like nothing we don't want no pre-memorized, but just like the last, get a glimpse into Nino's creative side, and peer pressure you into spitting the last thing you wrote on your phone or iPad or whatever.
Yeah. Let me see if I could get to the iPad. If not, there's only audio only. Ask the people if they're cool with audio only.
I don't think they are. Hold on.
See if I can get to my iPad. I've relocated to 3 different locations here.
Yep. It's all good.
So can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Check it. I'm gonna spit something. I don't have the iPad by me. I said, yo, why everybody in jail, they ODing, the whole game selling out the whole region. They doped up the whole scene, smoke dope or get coke up your nose, no sleep, cocaine, perks, propane, perps, syrup, sipping on the whole thing. I tell you lean on me is because there's more gains. You try to lean on them, you need some codeine. Oh, damn. On the beach, yeah, they so street. But when the feds come, they selling out their codees. The whole team, the partners, the roadies, their managers, homies and homies of homies, the graphic designer, accountants, the interns and interns, just count on them out in their whole squad. Damn. What happened in your main state? Trapping in the AKs. Damn, what a fad. You was grade A. Now I was an act funny, all them tats in your grill. And now you got a safe face. Mayday, lanes make way. I'm like a great chess play. I straight race stakes, I would pray. On MCs, I'd wait press play in the scene. K-Slate take for 8 straight days, I was days. Yeah, but who knew? I take they place to you, I'm new, but I've been dope since A, baby. I'm Drake Tress, K-minus the gay dress phase. I'm new school, mixed with Juice Crew in Kane's heyday. I raid day gates, stain they face, cause rap gone corporate. AKA the KKK, the MK Ultra program that raised their pay, that paved way and left JFK and MK slain. Change your fate. I'll take your stake way before you make your plate and say your grace or race or fate. It's make or break, so take away. Django's chains, I ain't no slave. Look, my native ways, raise my rage, to spray a gauge through the Macy's. Day parade, I try to walk away like Macy Gray, but I can't just make this pain fade away. I'm anxious, hate this cape, but I save the day. I'm from the bottom end of the trap like an 808. I ain't no Drake, J-O-Y, but snap so hard. Follow that with a Shanae wave, oh Lord. This is crack music. I walk the walk, and it's intentional. Take your bass and raise the bass. I make it ache. To haters it hurts, but those who relate, it makes them great. It works. I make creators change their pace. I dust faves and shake off what majors play. Look, y'all not even good bad. Y'all all suck at sucking like Kim K and that Ray J tape, your fame's a waste. I can't even rate this phase. Y'all should hire ghost riders like Jermaine or Dre. This pay to play. State is a lame display. I love rap, but y'all the reason I hate this game. Cause see, I came up where skills was a stable place. If you had it, you straight. Now it's a Lego base where pieces could be replaced and the way its place may change. But the build, you just can't reshape this lane. Now it feels like a shapeless maze, a matrix, a simulation, and the agents came to take this and keep our data tainted by playlists. Meet your maker who's out for the paper, an alien in a house like Alf. I don't cater, on top by a hair like alfalfa. The savior, tell Alfred in the cave, get my outfit. It's tailored and engraved with a crown for the alpha and omega. My brain got alpha, beta, algorithmic data, theta ways that kill my outlets, inner demons, alchemist, the power fist I raised that's Paulo Coelho mixed with Malcolm's lit demeanor. Mira, I've been a leader. Me with bars that's like Wiz Khalifa with the reefer. I dip set with the features, it's killer season. I don't know what that meant, but I really mean it. With the with the double meanings, you see I'm the realest scheming. That means even with the puns, I'm the illest reeking. Dead in the middle with little wittily. I'm spreading an embedded literal ghetto ministry, getting rid of the devil diss me with witty similes. I know heaven's levels of sin, but never did it belittle me. Look, I sip an energy shot with a pill of Ritalin before the rhythm's written. It's riddled with vivid imagery. Hickory dickory dock, the clock's built to me. A minute to me's infinite. I'm dead in them like it's shivery. Jiminy Cricks, the kids got a gift like Nicholas in a chimney. I'll never be shivered. Miss me with misery. And I'm just wishing that Christopher's listening. Because being the realest for years don't get you chips in this church.
Woo! Stop it. Yo, we might have to make this. I mean, that might have to just be the first and last time we have somebody rap a verse. I was about to say we might need to make that a series. I'm like, who's gonna want to do it after that? Like, damn, bro, that was insane, dog. And I don't know what the Dipset and I don't know what that means, but I really mean it.
Really mean it.
Stupid, bruh. Yeah, there's a lot of reputable spitters in the chat. There, like my boy Milk's in here, Thesaurus, all like, yo, this was going crazy. Yeah.
Thank you, man. I cheated. That's not the last one I wrote, but that's the one that I decided to rap here since y'all can't look at me while I'm rapping.
Oh, okay. Hey, we're gonna delete it off the podcast. Then he cheated, guys. So you never heard that.
Yeah, my apologies for that.
It's all good, man. That was insane. What's that off of? Does that have a home yet?
Nah, that's a one take thing that I clearly need to rehearse and practice because I haven't rehearsed it yet. But I'm gonna just one take something and kind of raise the bar. You know what I mean? Kind of like how you do it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I got a new one that's like similar shit where it's like I think I'm gonna put it on the new record, but I'm gonna do a raising the bar version of it for sure. But that was insane, bro. Yeah, I appreciate it. I might have to start. That might be the start of a new segment and call it like peer pressure bars or something like that, where I just peer pressure my guests into rapping. You absolutely set the tone though, man. Good shit. And yo, I appreciate your time, bro, and you coming on. And we'll definitely have more conversations and have to have you back on. You know what I mean? I feel like we could go.
Sorry
infinite.
For all the location movement. I just spread out to like 3 different spaces and the cutoffs and all of that. But I appreciate you for doing this. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the interview. I really want to be thankful because you've been supportive. So the world might not know we've been friends. Personal stuff too, but even just in the creative process, just like I've been somebody you could bounce things off. You've always been somebody I could call in the middle of a creative process, and you'll entertain while you're in the middle of prepping for a battle. I could tell you about one of my songs, and you'll always sit there and kind of like help. I could bounce ideas off you. Like I said, mine or two, and you gave me that idea. So I appreciate you for always being supportive, looking out. The promo you put to this was dope. I think this is the way to go about it because you created a sense of value to what you was doing and all of that. So I really like the fact that you did this. And yeah, I'm glad, man. This was fun. I felt like I was just talking to you like we've always talked, but just, with some different eyes and ears.
Some people eavesdropping.
I don't know who's in here, how many people in here. If they're my supporters, thank you for joining with all the promo we did. And if they're Ilmac supporters, keep supporting the platform, man, because this is just us by ourselves. Ain't no real money, ain't no real advertising here. It's just us by ourselves putting content, giving it to you guys, and it could only get better if y'all keep supporting. Donate whatever y'all can. He didn't tell me to say none of this. He actually did, but don't tell him I said that. But like, dead ass, that as with independent creators, if you dig the content as much as you can, support on a monthly basis, $5, $3. It just really just helps us deliver the content because we're taking losses. It's all time and everything. And if they can't do it, at least they're spreading the word out and just keep spreading the word out to people. And this is the route for us to go. So I'm glad that you're transitioning into this phase and you have my full support. I'm glad you're doing this, man.
Nah, 100%, bro. It's real shit. And, you know, we'll put this on YouTube and everything, and it's definitely, the appreciation is mutual for sure, man. And yeah, like I said, I definitely want to have you back on, and this is just the beginning even of sort of like rebranding and figuring out how to run the podcast on my own. And even the promo that we did like leading up to this one was the first time, you know, I've done it like that, and want to continue to do that. So and the same with rapping, you know, which I really think will be dope. People will like to see that once we put it on the other platforms as well. So good looking out on being my guinea pig. You feel me?
His wife and his daughter who's here. They've been putting up with me talking in their kitchen because the shit was heating in the garage and I got kicked out of the studio. So I want to shout out Amber and Maddie for just like dealing with me talking for like 20 minutes. They
shout
like
out.
The coolest folks, man.
Yeah,
this
shout
is family.
out to them,
I want to shout them out. Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie and Amber.
Thank you.
You've been putting up with me yelling all loud and talking rap stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the real ones in our lives that put up with us, they're the MVPs, you know?
They're the ones that deal with this nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. All right, bro. Yeah, we'll be chopping it up, man, for sure. And we need to make a song soon. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I've avoided it, you know, for long enough. You know, I felt every time I get a beat and then I write to it, I'm like, I should get Nino on this, and then I think about my bars in my verse, and I'm like, I don't want to have to rewrite, you know. But yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah, we definitely got to get it in, man. And one more time, I've had a reminder in the chat, like a bot, like shouting out, follow him on socials and having the links and stuff like that. But just the best way for somebody to support, whether it be the website or socials.
I've never treated Instagram with importance, but if they follow me on Twitter, cool. But follow me on Instagram at Nino Bless now. I'm going to start posting a lot more things on my story and links that people can follow and get to there. So if they just new to me, they can follow me on Instagram because I'm going to actually start utilizing it and putting content out there like freestyle. If they like that rhyme I just kicked, I'm going to kick rhymes over beats and acapellas and all that. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually going to start utilizing it. So if they want to support me and if they just dig what I've been talking about or so on and so forth, tell them to follow me on Instagram. Thesaurus loves my stories, by the way. He likes that I'm an anti-vaxxer.
Hey, and there we go with the segue to our next conversation.
I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
We're editing that off, and it's gonna end on I'm an anti-vaxxer. No, we're leaving that, but not the part where you said you were joking. That part of me.
Okay, yeah. Don't cut the joking part. But Thesaurus is my homie, man. If he's in the room, tell him I said what up. Man.
Yeah, he's in there. He's dying, and I put the direct link to your Instagram, and if you're seeing this on YouTube or whatever, yeah, just at Nino Bless, holler at the boy. Once again, man, I salute you. We'll have you on soon for sure.
All right, blessings, bro. I'll call you in a bit.
Yep, peace, bro.
All right, y'all.
Sure.